Thanks for checking out the They're Queer podcast. This episode will contain spoilers for the new Scream movie. To avoid spoilers, check out the chapters in the description of this episode. Now on with the show.
You are listening to the superfreakmedia podcast network. If you like this podcast, please be sure to show your support and follow us on our other social media platforms. Check out the links listed in the description of this episode to find out more. Thank you.
My God, do you know that bit where he sucks the corn syrup with his fingers? Good God.
Do you know, I thought we'd get further on talking about Scream before you mentioned that, but...
Welcome to the They're Queer podcast, episode 5. It's a Scream, baby! I can't do a Matthew Lillard impression. I mean, I tried. It's a Scream, baby.
It's something. I'm excited for this episode. I think it's going to be a good one. I think every gay and their dog has done an episode on Scream this last month, haven't they? In the queer podcast universe. So. Yeah,
quite rightly so. I mean, this film deserves every single ounce and bit of praise it does. Full spoiler alert for anyone listening. We will be discussing, obviously, what happens in Scream 96 in this, but we will be sharing our views on the 2022 Scream.
Yeah, that's literally just come out, hasn't it?
Yeah, we saw it 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll do for the listeners, if you haven't seen Scream 2022, I'm going to probably pop some chapters in the description of this episode. So if you want to skip that and come back maybe when you've had a chance to make up your own mind and have a look, then we won't spoil it for you. But yes, you have been warned. We are going to get into it. Mm-hmm. We're gonna talk some shit.
During this episode, I can't keep calling it Scream 2022, so it will be called 5 Cream. This episode. 5 Cream.
I think they definitely missed out on a bit of an opportunity there, didn't they?
I know, they had Scree Forum.
Yeah, Scree Forum. I was going to say after Scree Forum, you really needed 5 Cream. I think as well, I noticed on the, the Facebook banner when people share that they're going to see the film, when they tag themselves and check in, it just comes up as Cream, which I just find wonderful. I just keep seeing on my timeline, people are just watching Cream. That's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Great. That's what we need.
I thought we would just check in with one another, even though we did the unthinkable and saw each other in person for the first time in ages the other day.
It must have been years since I've actually seen you in person, which was mental. It was lovely to see you, by the way. It was a lovely evening. We should do it more often.
I was, not going to lie, I was a bit tipsy on the way home.
I'm feeling woozy here!
Honestly, well, you were obviously there. We went out for a drink afterwards to kind of talk about the film and or whatever. And yeah, that just turned into a full-blown night out for me. I didn't get home until 3:30 in the morning, so
incredible.
Yeah, it was great. And we need to talk as well about how spooky that evening was.
Scary night, isn't it? With the murders and all, it's like right out of a horror movie or something.
Oh,
Fog
my days.
Fully descended on Nottingham here, and it was probably the spookiest I've ever seen Nottingham city centre look.
Well, me walking back to the train station underneath a dimly lit bridge, I was just like,
this is how it ends.
Die.
Do you like scary movies, Sydney?
Yeah, this is how it ends. It's fine. So I was trying to voice note my thoughts on the film, so just in case you have to posthumously include my thoughts. Yeah,
it'll be like a cameo from Randy in Scream 3, won't it? Amazing. But yeah, so what have you been up to this last month? We'll pretend that we didn't catch up just for the purpose of the podcast. What have you been up to?
So I always feel like I'm at work.
I've been at work.
Yeah, literally. But no, I had a lovely break from work. I had 2 weeks off for the Christmas break, and it was the perfect time for me to recharge my batteries.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot more, even though I've just had a little break, because I realised that I've not been keeping up with TV shows and stuff. So I've just had a little break. But no, I've been really getting into my reading, and I've started to plot out and get my first initial thoughts down on a book that I'm planning to write.
Okay, word.
I'm planning to write a scary story for gays.
Yeah, gay rights.
Well, for anyone,
That's
really.
the title. Scary story for gays.
Scary stories to tell in the sauna. It's but it's heavily inspired by Scream. Funny enough, which happens to be one of, if not my favourite scary movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we did start off the episode by asking what each of his favourite scary movie is, and I feel like
I thought we were gonna ease ourselves into it. I mean, let's not get carried away. We'll get our greetings and salutations out the way, shall we? Yeah. I mean, how was your Christmas? Did you have a nice Christmas?
It feels incredible.
You know, because we're recording this podcast a little bit later on in the month than we usually do, because we normally get together in the first week of each month, don't we? So it's been a bit weird because we're recording this like, I don't know, past the midpoint of January, so we haven't actually spoken for a good while properly. But I think when I have spoken to you, it sounded like you had a lovely time at Christmas.
Oh, I had like a really relaxed Christmas.
Yeah.
I also had a birthday, and the birthday was really nice. Like,
good,
because of like the threat of Omicron. I was just like, no, I'm not wanting to go out and do anything. So instead, I had a really nice evening in watching clips of my favourite films on YouTube rather than watching the whole thing. And
just the best bits.
Yeah. Played some video games, had some nice food.
Okay.
It was bloody lovely. So yeah, how was yours?
Yeah, it was really nice. I mean, I think the last episode I was pretty ill when we recorded.
Yeah.
And I think I said in the episode as well, like, yeah, it's definitely not COVID because I've been testing. Spoke to my GP. Turns out it probably most likely was COVID. So that's great. But yeah,
I can't believe it's not COVID.
I don't know. Somehow, I think just because I knew it was the week of Christmas, I just powered through for those couple of days before. But when I tell you, like, when Boxing Day came, I was just, I was out. I was out for like the rest of Christmas break. But yeah, it was lovely. It was really nice to have some time off, like you said. But also, I don't know. I always get excited at this time of the year because it's like a fresh start and there's plenty of things to be looking forward to. Like, I'm excited for what projects and collaborations we've got kind of coming up this year, so hopefully we'll be able to announce some stuff fairly soon and actually start making stuff again. But yeah, other than that, it's just been, I guess, getting back into the swing of things. Scream or 5 Cream was something that I was definitely kind of willing myself into the new year for. So yeah, it's I think it was just a weird kind of festive period, wasn't it? I think everyone's was a lot more laid back just because of Omicron being the bitch she is.
Well, last episode I said I hadn't put my tree up yet. I still haven't put my tree down.
No, no way. You've done it all wrong. You've done it in reverse.
17th of January and my tree is still up. Purely because I think I'm just going to take it down at the end of the month, because it's just like, it's really nice to walk into a room and I have something that's just lit up and sparkly. So my thought was, maybe I'll be really gay this year, and just decorate my tree all year round and have like
a seasonal tray.
Like a seasonal tray.
But yeah, no, it's nice, I suppose, that we got to kind of do some nice things over the holidays. And to our listeners, hope that you all had a lovely Christmas as well and a happy New Year. And thank you for sticking with the podcast. We're getting some lovely bits of feedback every episode, which is nice. So
good, I mean, I want to personally thank anyone who submitted in their real life horror stories, of which we have a feature length one this episode. I can't wait to
honestly.
get into it.
I kind of want to just get through Scream really fast, just so we can get to that. So.
Well, I was in the bath when it was submitted, and I like to read in the bath. And when I tell you I was hooked, I was like, this deserves to be like adapted for screen. It's incredible.
Has this formed the basis of your new novel then? Is that what?
Yeah. I completely changed directions. Yeah.
Amazing. But yeah, so I suppose let's get into it. I mean, we got together over this last weekend, opening weekend for I'm going to call it Scream 5 because I mean I can't be arsed with why they've called it Scream again. It just doesn't make sense. It just seems to
be such a thing at the moment to be like, right.
Yeah.
When we're making a requel.
Oh, right, yeah.
When we're making a requel, we're going to just call it by its original name. And it's just hard when you're talking about it in conversation because then you have to be like...
Yeah. You have to say the year, don't you? It's like Halloween. Yeah. It's like is
Halloween,
it 78 or 2018?
Is it the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre film is called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well?
Yeah. I just... they're all going down, obviously, a similar route. And I get that it's been a decade since the last film. But, yeah, I just... To me, what kind of stood out with the franchise is the fact that you did have these characters all the way through. So it didn't make sense to me that we'd kind of disregard that continuation and then not call it Scream 5, because I know that it was Wes Craven's like kind of intention, unfortunately, before he passed away, to kind of have a secondary trilogy with 5 and 6. So I get that this is different and they've had to obviously do things differently because of his passing, but yeah, I think that was probably the first qualm of many that I had with this film. So I suppose, getting into it, we're going to be very honest and brutal with how
let's get into it.
How we felt when we watched this.
I was fully on the hype train. Anybody who has followed me on social media knows that I was fully like, oh my God, this is it. This is going to feed me for years to come. Because like the original Scream film is, it wasn't like the first horror film I watched or anything like that. In fact, I will say it was the first horror film to fucking petrify me. It scared me, and I'll get more into that later. But it was like the one that stuck with me forever, and it's the one that I always come back to, and it's my like comfort film and my feel good film, and it's got my like some of my favorite characters, not just in like horror media, but in just like film in general. Yeah. So coming into Scream 5, I was like, right, the gang is back. The trailers, like the first trailer was very spooky, and the tone was there, and I was like, ooh. I didn't watch the final trailer because it was released a couple of days before the film came out, and trailers have that habit at the moment of giving so much away. Definitely. Kind of you Halloween Kills, who just showed us every kill.
Absolutely everything, yeah.
Going into it, we were both fully on board. I will say I am left wanting after that film. I'm just we're getting full into it. I'm very happy for everyone out there who considers this film to be like the greatest sequel and the greatest testament to Wes Craven's legacy and all this stuff. But I really wish I was on board with. I really wish I was in the same camp as you all. Yeah, it's not to say that I didn't enjoy the film. There were some moments that were absolutely like blew me out of the water, and those moments happen to be with the original cast. So I'm going to get into like one of the biggest bits of it.
For me, I mean, just touching upon what you've said there with the original cast, I think that was like a massive thing, because I mean, I can remember the day that Wes Craven passed away, and I can remember I was actually really quite upset, because he is 100%. It's like, I know for a fact, obviously, I'm kind of trying to touch wood somewhere here. I know for a fact when John Carpenter passes away, it's just going to destroy me. Like, it will.
Many happy returns for yesterday.
Yes, happy birthday yesterday. He shares a birthday with my mother, which is incredible. So never forget his birthday because of Mum. But yeah, like it completely like destroyed me. Like, he was such an inspiration as a filmmaker, and I can remember at the time, I'm sure it was quite like obviously a big thing. Nev Campbell said like, I don't think I'll ever return to Scream without Wes. It really needs to be right. All the kind of things need to fall into place. And then I can remember when Scream 5 was like announced, like initially it wasn't announced with the legacy cast returning, and then slowly we kind of got that drip of, oh, okay, David Arquette's coming back. Shit got quite serious for me, like when then Courtney Cox was back and Neve Campbell was back, and it was like, right, well, these guys must have got an absolutely killer script, a killer idea, everything must be great if they are kind of doing this without Wes Craven being involved.
Yeah.
So I think immediately I had high expectations based on that. Then reviews were coming out, like horror sites were covering the film, like in previews, and everything was so unbelievably positive, like to the point it reminded me a lot of Halloween 2018. Like it was just like, this is what the franchise needs, this is for the fans. And so however much of it I was kind of looking forward to it, this was a unique kind of experience, I think, because I was going into it with the idea that if I was a fan of Scream, I was definitely going to love this film. Yeah. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case at all for me, and I'd probably say obviously you as well.
Yeah, and I mean the worst part of it is as well. Well, not the. Yeah, I'd say the worst part of it is the film tries to make you feel bad for not liking the film as well. It's so meta to the point where it literally says, like, fans, if fans don't like things, then you need to just accept it. I mean, yeah, okay, I'll hold my hands up and say, you know, I'll gladly accept it. I haven't posted anything online slating it. I'm not slating anything. I get
this as a pretty big thing. Like, obviously we're going like in public on a podcast saying our opinion, but ultimately that's kind of like the purpose of the show. We discuss things, and and in this case I think we were fairly united in the way that we felt about the film when we came out, the comments we were making, everything. And I mean, to give like kind of an overview of it, I would describe this film as ultimately a bit of a repetition, like, I mean, kind of a lot of repetition of the first film, which is why I think it works well to discuss this and then obviously discuss the original afterwards, because there are so many elements that are repeated. I mean, the third act takes place in Stu's home. And you have like the opening with the Ghostface killer on the line asking questions about scary movies. Like, I mean, it literally is retreading a lot of familiar territory. But the problem is what it does try to do that offers like new things, it's just not done in a good way, like, at all. And like you said about the meta side of things, it became so clunky. I mean, Scream is something that people talk about as being such a meta film, and I get it, I really do. Obviously that was the big unique selling point of the first Scream film, but it wasn't every other word. And when the group got together, you had this core group of friends. When they got together, they weren't talking about horror movies all the time. They were talking about being teenagers. They were talking about like things that were important to the characters. It was like, how many different films can we show in?
I did feel like every line of dialogue just, they had to include a reference to a film. And even there was some really like on the nose stuff, like the character Wes. Like, I get it. I get it. You really want to do like a nice like little Wes Craven. Yeah. But then there's a character whose surname is Carpenter. Yeah. For John and then it just goes on. I mean, that's not to say the original Scream film wasn't meta to the point where they had the director of the movie dressed as a janitor called Fred in the Freddy But it wasn't that every scene. That was one little scene where you could be like, oh, you stupid bastards. That's funny.
Yeah, it was like a nod and a wink.
Just being like, right, let's see what we can reference here. Oh, let's talk about the Babadook about 10 times.
If we're starting off, we're talking about that opening scene. Obviously, the opening scenes are something that the Scream movies are renowned for. I mean,
there's not been, even with the weird cotton weary thing. There's every opening kill has had me like on edge. I remember the first time I saw the opening kills from Scream 1. I hate saying Scream 1, but Scream 1 and Scream 2. Good God, I was like, shit, I think even now, I will watch those and think, this is fucking incredible. Like the tension that is there,
It's perfection. Those opening scenes, I think, are why we talk about opening scenes in horror movies, because I think they really cemented it as like you had to have like this big opening. There had to be like this massive bit of action for then you to slow things down and then get all the exposition to lead up to the final act.
And there were some good moments in that opening scene, and I really liked when she was like, I'm not answering the landline. Who the answers the landline? I thought, okay, that's a good way of modernising.
Yeah, the main thing that you saw was the fact that there were things being utilised like mobile phones, apps, all of these things, smart locks, smart houses. And I mean, that is the way I think even I personally would have taken it if I was like doing a Scream film nowadays. And I mean, you can see it in like the likes of Scream 4, where they were kind of, the technology obviously wasn't where it is today, but they were still kind of going the routes of like Twitter and apps and and stuff.
But yeah, there were some moments I really liked, like the thing with the door, where the door was locking and he was unlocking it.
Doors unlocked. All doors locked. Doors unlocked.
That was pretty. I thought, oh god, this is actually like I would be shitting.
Yeah, 100%.
And I thought it was good. But there was like, again, during the opening scene, there was two. I liked that they were referencing the Stab movies. That was I really liked this little in-universe series. But to me, it was the bits where it's like, oh, we're really going to try and replicate that Drew Barrymore openings. Let's have her playing with some knives.
Like that. You know when she did that, when she lifted out the knife from the knife block and then said the Babadook. I think I had a bit of a hump with the film because of that. So I was like, it made sense in the original, but like you could just see them. It wasn't even like it was being done, I didn't think, in like even a loving way. It was kind of just, it was like, let's just see how many references we can get in there. And that's where, I don't know, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, I think.
One thing I did enjoy about the opening scene as well was it was brutal. Like we physically reacted to those moments. Like the knife through the hand was...
Him stamping on her ankle, the knife through the hand. And I mean, I will say throughout the whole film, I think probably one of my most positive things about it was the fact that, the violence and the kills were especially brutal. Were. Like, it wasn't just a single stab. Like, I mean, if you think about the opening of Scream, for example, she kind of gets like the one in the top of the chest, and then you don't really see much after that. It's alluded to, or you hear the stab, but you don't see it. Whereas in this one, it was literally like stab, stab, stab. I mean, I guess that's obviously, if you want to kill someone, that's how you do it. I think
or not, apparently.
And I think this is where, if I'm being honest, I think this is where
I started to lose interest. When it's revealed that the opening kill, well, what should have been the opening kill wasn't in fact an opening kill. The person survived.
Nope.
Tara,
thank you. Yeah, played by Jenny Ortega, who I keep calling her Kenny Ortega, and I'm like, wait, that's Xanadu. But no, who I've literally, because I've not watched literally the day or two, I think it was the day before we went to watch this, I watched the sequel to The Babysitter film. I watched Killer Queen. And I really liked her in that. I was very hit and miss with her performance in this. It ultimately, now I've slept on it, I did enjoy her performance.
Because obviously you've got Tara played by Jenna Ortega, and then you've got Sam Carpenter played by Melissa Barrera, and essentially they're two sisters. And then of course as the film transpires, we find out that Ghostface
really early on that as well. We find out that she's the daughter of Billy Loomis.
Well, there's a big reveal there with Billy Loomis, but we find ultimately that the Ghostface killer is out to basically kill anyone related to the original killings of the Scream film, or Stab movies, obviously, as they're referenced in Scream 5. The problem is, and I mean, obviously I was already turned off by that opening because I had a very big suspicion that she was going to survive, but also I think I was a bit annoyed because essentially the trailer is that opening scene condensed.
Yeah.
So I mean, there wasn't anything. It's like as soon as I saw her go by like kind of that dark doorway, I knew Ghostface was going to come out of that doorway because I'd seen it in the trailer, and I knew that she got stabbed at the door and things like that. And I mean, it just kind of took it out for me because I don't think any other Scream movie has spoiled their opening, and it just didn't make sense to me at all. And I get that it was. I do respect the decision to try and do something different than obviously kill someone in the opening, but for me that was a big no. They shouldn't have done that. So we cut forward to Sam now coming back to town, to Woodsboro.
Can I just, before we carry on, can I just say I didn't enjoy Sam at all. Like,
no,
she's fair play to the actress for. I'm so sorry. I usually make a note of
Melissa Barrera.
Thank you. So I realised it was bugging me for ages where I'd seen her before and realised she was from In the Heights. I didn't enjoy her acting in that.
It was so wooden.
Didn't enjoy her acting in this. It was really one note. There wasn't
awful.
any. It was doe-eyed. Everything. I was looking at her eyes throughout the most of it. She has beautiful. I will say that she is stunning. And that's not just to say she's just nice.
She's real pretty, but yeah.
But honestly, like she didn't have the chops to be the final girl for me.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that she was obviously penned to be the Sydney of this film because essentially it was her and her sister's story. I think they're very much obviously at the centre of it, and of course obviously you've got this big reveal of Billy Loomis being her father, but the way that we kind of find out that there's a tenuous connection between them is initially is the fact that he appears again de-aged as like a ghost in like reflections.
So they clearly didn't watch Scream 3 and everyone being like, what the fuck is Maureen Prescott doing at this window? And then thought, oh, everybody really loved seeing Ghost Maureen Prescott. Why not bring, like,
the one thing about Scream that works is the lack of kind of, I think, supernatural, paranormal, anything. It's the fact it's a maniac, it's brutal, it's a human
story.
That's snapped, and just to kind of take it in that direction was weird.
Like, I really hated the flashes of Billy. That's not to say I didn't enjoy seeing Skeet Ulrich back on my screen, because that man is sexy as
and I mean, he was good, I'd still say, like playing Billy. I mean, that must have been so much fun for him to kind of come back and inhabit that space again as an actor. But it was just like everything with this film, it was just done so badly. Like, it was so clunky.
That threw me out when we first saw him. I was like, oh, I mean, it was.
You didn't have a good reaction at all. I think I can remember hearing you just go, no.
I was like, I just remember sighing and just like, and reading a lot of people's thoughts online. People loved those moments, and they were like, oh, she has to take these pills so she doesn't see him. That went nowhere.
No.
Have you noticed that one? I thought she was going to be the killer. And I mean,
I think it was a red herring, wasn't it? It was to kind of say, well, she's unstable.
It was a red herring that, like, they just, I don't know, to me, it was too. I found the fact that it was revealed she was Billy's daughter really early on. I found that, like, a little bit crazy. I thought if that was revealed, it was slowly fed to us throughout this thing, rather than having him. I think they just wanted to put him in as much as possible. That's why they did.
I think that's it. You know, if you'd like have subtly seen him, like, I don't know, like walking by or something, she kind of caught a glimpse of him, like in the bloody tarp, or if that's the route that they wanted to take, I think they could have done it so
she was
much
walking
better.
down, like she was looking across the road, and there was somebody in like a white top and jeans, and from the back, and you could see like the nice little curtains and the nice peachy arse and stuff, and she'd be like, oh wait, no, that's not.
Checking out her own dad.
Excuse me, Daddy?
I think there's two characters in this film, the twins, who I feel are apart from the original cast returning, are to me the standouts of the new cast. They are the
Meeks twins,
nephew.
aren't they?
of Randy.
Yeah, so you've got Chad Meeks and Mindy Meeks.
Sexy Mason Gooding, who's in Love Victor, and Jasmine Savoy Brown, who's currently, just been killing it on Yellow Jackets as well.
Absolutely. She's incredible.
We'll talk about that later as well, because... But, yeah, they were the stars of this film, and to me, purely because they felt like the most in-universe Scream characters to me. When I watch a Scream film, it's like they're the most believable. You've got this like beautiful little himbo, and then we've got like the stoner queer person who's like that. That moment where it's like really tongue-in-cheek, where she's watching the stab film of
what we've seen in Scream, of him watching
that bit I enjoyed, and I was like, oh, you funny little bastards. Doesn't make up for the rest of the film, but yeah.
I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, with all of these films, you kind of are reintroduced to kind of this group, aren't you? I mean, you had Sydney in college in the second film. It was kind of the cast of the movie in the third, and then we kind of go back to high school again in Scream 4. So I kind of got that we were going to get that dynamic, and I think, of course, it was alluded to in all of the marketing. But I don't know. There was just something about it, like, I didn't really feel like these people would have been friends at school.
No.
Like, there was no chemistry.
Especially, so the Tara, the younger one, to me felt so much younger than the group of friends she was supposed to be with. I read her. Read that bitch. Watched her as being so much younger than everyone else. I thought, I couldn't see these people hanging out at all. And
I think the problem is that she obviously wasn't there, because her story takes her into the hospital, where obviously naturally she's recovering from the opening scene, and then we're kind of left with her sister Sam kind of substituting for her in this friend group, where naturally she's older, she's not really, she doesn't know these people, and I guess that obviously that throws up the kind of the questions as to, it's obviously one of this group who's doing what's going on. But I mean, for me, it was very obvious who the killer/killers was, pretty much from the outset,
from the get-go. I mean, the one thing that this franchise has always had going for it, and sometimes it has been a miss, I've never been able to guess who did it. Like, even I'm thinking back to when I first watched Scream, the original film. It was really clever when they did the red herring of it can't be Billy because he's been proven innocent. And I was like, oh yeah, it can't be him. And then up until the reveal, I was like, oh shit. And then the second film, I mean,
I think Mickey was a lot more obvious than Debbie Salt, and I mean Debbie Salt is just
Debbie
queen.
Salt, my icon, my queen, my everything.
Yes, queen.
Was that a negative or disparaging remark about my son, about my Billy?
Incredible. Now, if she'd have been in flashbacks, I wouldn't have minded. And then in the third film, that's when it got a bit weird, when it was like, half brother. And obviously, never saw that coming, because I don't think even the script writers did.
No. Well, naturally, that's where Kevin Williamson exited writing, wasn't it? And I mean, in this one as well, Kevin Williamson also not involved in writing, and you can tell.
You can tell.
The shade of it all.
Definitely, Scream 3 and this are the weakest out of the franchise, for sure.
With Scream 4, the reveal there floored me, and I remember being in the cinema, and I feel like my jaw was literally scraping my knees or something. It was incredible. And
it's really, really well done.
The motive was incredible. And just, I mean, I will say with every Scream film as well, the motive has been the driving force. And even though, the first one is like, that's it's a bit weird, but okay, it makes sense. And then the second one, you're like, of course she wants to murder Sydney. The third one, you get why with the horrible. We'll get into this on a Scream 3 episode. The horrible Weinstein of it all. And the fourth one was so fucking clever. I still think about the reveal in the fourth film and the motive behind it, thinking light years ahead of its time. Completely believable. Completely. And this
especially in this day and age.
This one, I'm still confused as technically what the motive was. What they were annoyed because there was a reboot, or
well, I mean, I think this was it. I think they tried to obviously tread the path of the original films in a similar way to making it. You know, obviously it it was seemingly obvious that the killer was going to be Billy in the first film, but then obviously they threw so many things your way that even to the point where he apparently obviously looks like he dies, that you're like, oh, it can't be him. But this one just seemed to kind of use humor almost to deflect from the fact that it was like, let's make the killer the comedy guy and then the other killer someone who we hardly see. So that's where the reveal is. And I mean, it's just not
they make
good.
They make it really obvious in a scene when, do you know, like when they're in the hospital and the killer pushes his head against the elevator and slices his arm, and it's like, oh, we've seen that happen. So why would the killer not kill him? That's so obviously going to be him. I think
obviously we're very much into spoiler territory, so if you haven't switched off already, I'm going to just warn you once more. Ultimately, the film kind of, we can discuss this because this is where the film's going. It's revealed that Amber, one of Tara's friends, is a killer, and then Richie, who is played by Jack Quaid, who's Sam Carpenter's boyfriend, they've returned to town together. He's the other killer, and I mean it to the point that, I mean, it's just so ridiculously obvious. Like when he says that he doesn't like really watch horror films. He isn't a fan. He doesn't know stab films, and you're just like, I don't know. It was very, very clunky. But I mean, this is of course then where I think it's what everyone was waiting for. This is where the legacy cast are reintroduced as Sam goes to find Dewey, because he is, of course, one of the resident experts on killings at Woodsboro.
I will say, Dewey in this film has not only the sexiest he's ever been, but have you seen that photo of David Arquette topless holding the Ghostface mask?
I have indeed.
My god. Yeah. Anyway, but Dewey in this film was just like the culmination of everything I've ever loved about him, and even more. Like his performance in this, like, was like the best he's ever been. Like he played this with such nuance, and he still retained all that like beautiful, boyish, naive charm, but also a lived-in feel. And the cutest moments for me, the best moments for me, were between the legacy cast. You have him typing out a message to Gail because they're divorced, and it's being like, "Don't come back to town." And then he's like, "I hope you're okay.
I hope you're well." Yeah.
It's so
he's like, "Ghostface is back. Hope you're well." It's I mean, that's it. And I mean, I think they did well because he, throughout the franchise, has kind of always been that source of kind of comedy, and it was refreshing to see, because I mean, for me, I never really understood how none of these characters, we saw them in kind of like a state of absolute despair, because the amount of stuff they've gone through, and I think they obviously very much went like 2018 Laurie Strode with Dewey, in terms of like he turned to alcohol, he was struggling with his health, there was a lot going on, but I mean, it worked for the character, and I think by all means, this was his film.
When Dewey's theme was played, I did get goosebumps.
Yeah,
it was so lovely, and just like you'd seen how far this character had come, but also like none of them had lost what they were. There was more to them in this film, but none of them had retained that core. And Dewey has always been the heart of these films. And every single one he's been in, he's been the heart of everything. He's been like the glue that keeps everything together for me. He really has. I really like seeing Tatum's ashes. I'll say that was a nice.
I noticed that, and then I was kind of, I don't know if I was like annoyed or I thought it was funny, but she deserves better than being in some trailer somewhere.
But speaking of deserves better than being in a little Easter egg, was we find out that Kirby survived Scream 4 and was like a little Easter egg on a YouTube.
Well, there's video. Actually there's two in that scene. So there's when obviously we've got the person who's very obviously not the killer but is the killer, Richie. He's doing research on the stab movies, kind of as they're also then talking to kind of Dewey and trying to see how they can survive this ordeal. You see on YouTube, it was nice to see like a real life cameo from Dead Meat,
James and Chelsea, my
James
angels.
And Chelsea. I mean those sorts of things where it got meta, I liked.
Was gorgeous, yeah.
But also very disappointed that this is where we got the chrome-faced Scream mask and the flamethrower. Like, that was a big part of the trailer, and I was like, someone needs to get toasted. when you see it on the YouTube screen, there's a thumbnail which says an interview with Woodsboro survivor Kirby, and then at the bottom it says,
is it the Stu thing?
does Stu, did he survive? I think obviously, they're leaving it open, aren't they, as to whether or not, because in actual fact, Kevin Williamson's initial treatment for Scream 3 had Stu returning as the killer. So it was kind of canon in that initial trilogy that he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
And I think Kirby and Stu are obviously the two characters that stick out to me. I mean, there could be more that have off-screen deaths or deaths where you don't know what's happened to them. Again, neither return in this. That's all we get. So to me, that was immediately. I was really disappointed, and maybe they couldn't get like Hayden Panten. I always forget Hayden Panten.
Thank you.
I had the biggest crush on her through school. You know, when Heroes was out.
Oh yeah. See, I didn't have a crush on her because gay, but like, she was always my favourite. Her and Ali Larter in Heroes were my favourite, and that's because I like a strong female character.
Strong, powerful, independent women, absolutely. But no, I mean, she was the best thing for me probably about Scream 4, like in terms of character. I loved her character so much, and I don't know, it was almost, you know how there's been the hype about Spider-Man, and obviously the Spider-Man returning and all of that. I can neither confirm nor deny if that happens, but it's, I don't know, it to me, I expected it.
So what I was expecting was, because I heard like a rumour saying, there is a Kirby appearance. I was expecting her to be the opening kill, because the opening kill we don't normally see much of, and sometimes it's not even like with the opening kills of Scream 4, and I know it's a bit, there's many opening kills in Scream 4, but they weren't on the poster, and it was like a nice little thing. I was really hoping it would be something like that. So again, I was like, the opening chase scene, I suppose we can call it now.
It was, I mean, it was a shame, because I think, I don't know, when I've kind of done some research, I don't know if she's currently retired from acting at the moment, and I don't know if it was obviously a case that physically it just wasn't possible because she didn't want to do it. And I completely get that. I think there was definitely potential, and I think, that would have really, really worked, because who better to have in like a horror movie quiz kind of conversation opening scene than the person who absolutely slayed it in the last film. Like, it just makes absolute sense. Other than that as well, I mean, obviously we can get onto it when we maybe talk about the finale a little bit. I thought there was potential for either of the two characters, Stu or Kirby, to come back at the end, but again, we didn't get that.
The thing that I was annoyed about with the reveal as well was, I feel like if it was, I wouldn't have minded if it was played out in a very different way, because obviously this is like a 30-year-old man. And a very young girl. And if it had been...
capitalise on that. That's where the horror is.
If it had been... The real horror is she's been brainwashed by this bloke.
Groomed.
Now 100%. That would have been terrifying.
And that's such a current, like, fear of a lot of people.
And it would have given... To me, it would have given her character a lot more agency than, I'm just a psycho. I'm just the crazy girl. Yeah, it was... Oh, God, it was so disappointing.
Like, before we kind of get to the conclusion, though, I don't think we've obviously got to talk about the big kind of thing in the middle is, of course, this is a film in which we lose Dewey.
That was heartbreaking, and the build up to it was brilliant. Like, the build up was great. Apart from it, when Dewey said, "I've got to go back and I've got to make sure the shot ahead," you knew it was going to happen. But at the same time, it was kind of like, it was believable to me. I was like, Dewey would go back to Double Tap because he doesn't want to get stabbed again.
But this is the thing. I don't know why he wouldn't have maybe done that anyway, seeing as this is his fifth time.
But for him to have gone back alone was a bit crazy. But I did.
And also, I don't know, the reason he gets stabbed and gutted is because he checks his phone, and it was just just stupid. Like, he's better than that, absolutely.
But I saying all that, I was still very emotionally moved by that. But what moved me more was Gail's reaction. Oh my God. Yes. Gail's reaction to Dewey dying is just, oh my God. Like, I'm getting a little bit emotional thinking about it. Like, there's no question in the world that like Gale Weathers is my favourite final girl, horror movie character, everything. Life model. I want to. She's my guru. She's my everything. But Courtney Cox in this film was like. It sounds horrible, but you can really feel the. And I don't want to say talent because I think talent's a horrible.
You could feel the talent. Don't be afraid to say it.
It's not the talent because these are
the experience.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah.
But the way that she played it as well, and
it was the fact that literally you'd cut from like a scene where you've got like these teens talking about stuff, and then you'd cut to obviously her and Dewey having a moment before, unfortunately, obviously he gets the knife, and I think that for me was where it just became incredibly noticeable that like these actors, these newcomers were just not on par with obviously the legacy cast. And the problem is, I know obviously people will jump to their defense and be like, well, for some of these people it's like their first film or whatever.
Yeah.
It isn't for all of them. Obviously we've listed some of the other shows, films that people have been in, but also when you think about Scream, the original Scream film, like the cast was phenomenal, and the stars that it produced, it was just a pool of like raw talent. And I mean, even in Scream 4, like I thought the teens were great, like they were all absolutely good. But this, it was just horrendously bad. And I think for this to be the film that unfortunately we lose Dewey was just unforgivable.
And I think, I mean, the reason why I love like. The thing that draws me back to the Scream films is not just because I think they're incredible, and like it is that core cast of characters as well. And I hate this whole thing of passing the torch. I just it to me. It didn't do what Halloween did, whereas the Halloween requel, not only was I there completely in love with Laurie, but I had two other.
Yeah, you had Karen and Allison, the generation.
Allison.
Kiss me, I'm Allison.
And I was like floored by her. I was rooting for her.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
I really wanted to root for Sam in this. I wanted to. I really wanted to, and I just couldn't.
No. I think if anything, I think we were both kind of almost willing her to get the chop.
To die. I wanted her to die.
Just so it wouldn't happen.
I said it several times.
But
just kill her off, please. But this film was a triumphant return for Neve Campbell and for Courtney Cox as well. Yeah. Like their chemistry in this, if you compare it to where they were 25 years ago,
it was nice to see that they were friends now, because obviously they've been united by so much. And I think the rivalry was fun obviously for the first couple of films, but naturally
that's what I really love about Scream 4. Scream 4, there's that moment when they're first reunited, and even though Gail's really jealous of Sydney, they're like, we've been through some shit, let's just hug it out. And they do. It's a really nice chemistry. And them two, to me, just like the final act, I really wish it was just them two, and how like that was my favorite part, when they were just like it was focusing on them.
I mean, because overall they were incredibly underutilized, weren't they, those two? And I mean, obviously we are talking towards the end of the second act, we kind of get Gail coming in, and I mean, we've learned earlier on that Sydney is now married to, I think we can maybe assume, Kincaid from Scream 3, the police officer. So she's with Patrick Dempsey. She's got two babies.
She's with McDreamy.
She's living the dream with McDreamy. And obviously, I think at one point she actually does turn around when Dewey's like, "Oh, are you going to come back?" And she's like, "No, I'm not coming back." And I get that. I get that, and I think that was good.
Well, yeah, that's when I saw that scene, I'm like, well, she does come back. We know she comes back. So how the did they get her back? And I think the only logical way of getting her back was going to be Dewey dying, unfortunately,
and her being there for Gail, obviously, and then finishing it.
Yeah, I get what they were trying to do, and they were trying to create a new Scream around a new set of characters and having this torch passed on. But what I did when I got home that night, apart from watching about 10 episodes of Deadly Women, was I was like, how would I have done this film? Not that I'm qualified to have done anything different, but to me, it would have been, obviously, it just would have centered around Sydney. But what it would have been is slightly deviating. The fact is, it's Sydney's children who are in danger, and like they've been kidnapped or something like that, and all these killings are happening around her, and it was all about Sydney again, and that's what I wanted, because I think Sydney has been a character, even though like when we see her, she's in a place where she's like, oh, it's all behind her, but these films have a formula that I know that this one was trying to stray away from, but I think it's to its detriment that it strayed too far.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of knew going into this one we were going to lose one of them, and I think it was either, obviously, are they going to have the balls to kill maybe Sydney in the opening scene, because that would have been bloody bold.
I think I might have had more respect for the film had they have done that.
I know I completely get what you mean, but then other than that, I think, everyone was kind of feeling, well, maybe it's going to be Dewey because no one wants to get rid of Gale and Sydney. So,
if it had been Gale, I'd have rioted.
I think, literally, there would have been riots in the street, I think, if they'd have got rid of Gale. But the thing for me is obviously, ultimately, so then we kind of go back to then a rehash, really, of the first film. We've got the party going on at the
at Stu
Maker's old house, and I mean, I will say I did like the little homage to the fridge in the basement and things like that, because I felt like that was done in a way that was familiar, but it wasn't too on the nose. Like,
even though like Mindy was kind of set up to be the new Randy, she wasn't just a rehash of an old character, and she had the most. I don't know, and it's not just because I like the actress or because it was a queer character, but it just happens to be the queer character I was in love with. I just loved that she was, to me, felt the most believable of all the teen cast.
Yeah.
To me, she was the one who was like, I don't trust any of you.
Yeah.
You could all be here. I'm just going to live my best life.
I'm just going to be me.
I just want to be me.
I'm just going to be me. But also, she was the one who was like, I don't know, she was just so...
She was the sensible one. She was kind of the one who was like saying, like, this is stupid.
But if you're going to make a meta commentary on how people react to horror films, they would have all been more Mindy to me.
Yeah.
Also,
it was lovely to see Martha come back.
Oh my god, that
Randy's
warmed
sister.
my heart.
I mean, she's
much.
just so cute anyway. And I mean, again, it was like, you know, when that happened, you just felt kind of like warm, and you were in the familiar side of things again. And it was
because I had no idea that was going to happen. Like, that's not a piece of casting I saw anywhere. And
I kind of suspected when I found out that they were obviously going to be related to Randy in some way. I was thinking, well, the only way they could, like, we know he has a sister, so they've maybe a like nephew and niece or whatever. So I kind of expected that one, and it was nice that happened.
Oh, it was so lovely to see.
There needed to be more of that. Like, do you know what I mean?
It did.
I don't know. It was just a shame. But
this is out of all the Scream films, this has the weakest third act to me. It felt really rushed. And a third act of a Scream film shouldn't bore me, and I was a little bit bored, apart from one moment, which I'll talk about in a minute. But, like, there's obviously the reveal that it's your boyfriend and the friend, which is like, yeah, okay. But then there's a bit where I genuinely thought they'd killed Sydney off at one point, and I thought, I thought they were just going to have it as just being like, well, you, we're just going to...
I mean, can you imagine if, like, I don't know, it was, she falls down the stairs and then that's how she's dead. Yeah. She survived everything else, but then it's not even...
And I was like, oh, you... But no, there's, like, we get, like, the killer's monologue, which has always been fantastic. Always been great, but the final showdown has always been the thing that got me, and I really love, like, you've got, like...
It's kind of set up one way, and then it isn't, whereas this was obviously glaringly obvious from the outset, and the motive was piss poor. There was...
But then, the motive was piss poor, but
dreadful.
When they got into... fans have ruined this, and then they start talking about the fan reaction to Star Wars, which, yes, I agree with. I agree, like, the fan reaction to Star Wars was ridiculous,
but
like,
they've literally have copied Star Wars in so many ways in terms of killing an iconic character.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that's how meta they were getting with it, but I was like...
But I feel like this movie might as well have just broke the fourth wall entirely, looked directly into the audience and saying, you can't negatively critique this film because of what we're saying right now.
Yeah, saying that the fans or the fandom is toxic when they don't like where the franchise is going is a major problem, because like that's the point of it. It's like you've got to, I don't know. I think the horror community is a great community, but we'll call shit out if it's not right.
And as a community, we've had to put up with some shit. I mean, we all looked at what happened with Scream 3 and we're like, okay, you're a mess, but you're our mess, and we still love you so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like this wasn't the film franchise that was going to have to tackle that, because we still love Scream 3 for all its faults. And like, for it to say like, oh, the fans are toxic when they don't like things going in a different direction than to how they want it, and they should put trust in it, and just how on the nose that was. They literally might as well have been slapping me on the face in person, telling me, oh, you love this film, it's the best sequel. No. And everyone's saying that Wes Craven would have loved this film, and I mean,
that was touchy for me, because I just personally found it a massive insult to him. Like, I don't, it didn't have the nuance that he'd have in terms of handling these references, and it didn't have class.
Because what this film tried to do was to do Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but in the Scream setting.
Go and watch Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's tons better than this film.
Now, if you want to talk about meta, that film is a work of art.
But again, it handles it perfectly in a way that it's not every other bloody word. They're not saying, oh, the Babadook, Hereditary, and all of this. Oh, this is elevated horror. There was nothing elevated about this film. I thought it was absolute shite, and in all honesty, it made me quite angry.
It did with me. And one thing that we spoke about afterwards was what I hated the most was not just the predictability of who the people were, of who the killers were, but also I could time my watch to it and say, oh, there's going to be a funny quip coming in 3, 2, there we go.
Yeah.
I've said it. And it was like, that's been the great film. The thing about the films previously as well is the dialogue. Yes, it's funny and referential, but it was done in such a tasteful way.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. So we've got the final girl circuits happening. Sam's running about the house. It was like, oh, we need something for Gail and Sydney to do while all this is happening.
Well, to me, this was, I personally loved where they were kind of tag teaming Amber. You know, where they like throw her across the counter and thinking, and I was like, yes, more of this, more of this.
The bit with the hand sanitizer.
But as soon as it kind of started, it finished, and then it devolved into Amber being whiny and I mean, when you think about it as well, like Sydney's journey in this film, other than when we see her pushing her pram at the start, she's like in Woodsboro for a night and the whole thing is over. Like, she's not there very long. She's there to comfort Gail, and then they go to the house and then have the finale, and you're kind of just like, I don't know. I think, that was the pacing was massively off. But I felt at this point, this was the perfect opportunity to completely pull the rug from under you again and have a third killer. And I thought the third killer would have been Stu.
Yeah,
as a mastermind.
I was expecting a third killer, because I thought the thing that made the third act feel so rushed was, they've given away who it is really quickly.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's one character we've not even mentioned, Liv.
Is there?
Who's played by Sonia Ben.
The Red Heron.
Yeah, and I mean, she... Again, like, what was the point of her? The point of her was to get shot to reveal the killer.
She was such a pointless character, and I feel bad for the actress, because I feel there was moments in that where I was like, oh, she's got some chops to her. But that character was purely there just as like as a meat bag. There was nothing. There was nothing to her
dreadful.
character at all.
It was dreadful.
If you think about the original core cast of characters or the characters we've had in subsequent films, they've all had something to them. They're like fully formed, realised people. Even Sarah Michelle Gellar in the second one.
Yeah. Well, we see that she does film studies. She's responsible. She's looking after her sisters. There's like a whole.
Whereas this, we just see, I'm horny. I'm not horny.
Yeah,
I'm dead.
Yeah. It was absolutely dreadful. And I mean, like I said, there was the opportunity there to make this film. In my eyes, I think it would have actually transformed it into a great film.
Saved it.
Stu would have come in, or even if Kirby would have appeared at this point and gave an assist to Gale and Sydney, I would have been like, yes, this is the sort of shit we need.
And I feel like the film was quite bloated. If it had trimmed it down a little bit and extended that, because there was too much going on in the hospital. When Sam gets attacked in the hospital and nothing comes of it, that whole sequence could have gone for me. All the bits where we see Billy's flashbacks could have been gone for me. If the reveal in the end would have been, oh, Sam, how come they're coming after you and your sister? Because they've gone after everyone else who's related to someone. But like, why you two?
Yeah.
Stu comes in. It's because she's Billy's daughter. Bang, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And there would have maybe been some motive there because he's still been like able to have a family, whereas Stu maybe hasn't. Or do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's a bit more to it, and it attempted to kind of give you this big kind of moment with the audience where Billy then kind of becomes the hero and nods at the knife on the floor. In like an hallucination. I mean, I didn't know hallucinations could tell you where things are that you don't know exist, but they was like, okay, that knife, that's gone. It's down there.
That was the point where I was literally I was like swearing under my breath, and I was like, I'm so f***ing done with this film. The one bit that kind of pulled me back in was Amber's death. It was
magnificent.
Bloody fantastic. When it was just Gale and Sydney teaming up, doing what Gale and Sydney do. And then hits her when they hit her in the face with the hand sanitizer, I thought, that's f***ing funny. Didn't expect anything else to come of that. But when she went up in flames, I was like, I laughed quite loudly in that cinema. But no, I really enjoyed that. But then with Randy Quaid's character, I was just.
I think, I mean, it felt like it was almost copy and pasting a line from Scream 4 where Sid says,
"You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't f*** with the original."
And then it was like, "Don't f*** with the daughter of a serial killer." And you're just like, I mean, it was kind of cool to see her let loose, and I think that was probably the best moment she had in the entire film. But I don't know, whereas like Halloween 2018 had that whole bit where Karen suddenly becomes a badass. It was like it was trying to do that, but it just
get shivers when I think about that.
I just watched that scene on repeat.
Oh, it's incredible.
A lot of times. Yeah. It was obviously attempting to do something similar, and it just didn't. I
feel like because what I find really upsetting is the filmmakers behind this, like the minds behind this, created one of my favourite modern horror films, and it's Ready or Not, isn't it?
Yes. It's Radio Silence, the directors. You've got, I'm going to probably butcher this, Matt Bentinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. Gillet. but they've done the likes of entries into VHS, Southbound, which is a great anthology, and Ready or Not, which to me was like a perfect blend of slasher, comedy, supernatural, weird.
Oh my god,
Samara Weaving.
Samara Weaving is just like
goddess.
I love her so much. Now, if she'd have been in this film in Sam's role, I feel like another thing.
I think another actress could have.
Another actress could have kind of like elevated this,
for sure.
But then we've got the final act, and then the killers have been killed. We obviously have the bit where, oh wait, you have to shoot them in the head so they don't come back. But then Amber comes running through, and then we get
looking like Sloth from the Goonies. The makeup was so bad.
Yeah, and then we get like, Tara's here, by the way, and she's got a gun. Bang. Dead. And I did like her. I still prefer the Babadook line. I thought, okay, like
triggered.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that's a funny line. Well done. It's come full circle with her. But the end bit, I was really expecting. I was like, this isn't over yet. It felt because, and it sounds stupid. Sam is talking to someone, and she's like, "I'll be right back."
I'll be right back.
Oh, that's one of the rules. You shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
And I thought when there's ambulance door closed, I thought, no,
something's gonna happen. Yeah.
No, and then
just ends,
and then we just get the end.
And I hate the fact that it's ended almost saying, right, well, these are going to be the people taking over the franchise now, because I don't see why there would be any reason in hell why Sydney would come back to Woodsboro again now.
They're definitely, with the success of this film and how much money it's making, there's clearly going to be a Scream 6. Yeah. 6 Cream, or I don't know. But they'll, because it's Hollywood, and the only accolade they give to horror films is a sequel. That's the only thing they'll get. And they'll make another one, and there'll be no reason to have. To me, there'll be no logical or plausible explanation to have Sydney in there unless there's a direct threat to Sydney's loved ones. Yeah. And if they do make another one, I kind of hope the core cast don't come back.
I know what you mean. I mean, the thing is we've seen kind of diverging a little bit. We've seen that it can work with the TV show to an extent, because I didn't think that was terrible, the first season of the TV show. But then obviously that was kind of like a new beast. But do you know what I mean? Like, there could still be like a Scream story told without Sydney, and it makes sense. And I don't see why there can't be a similar sort of situation like here. But then at the same time, I think, you know, if this hadn't have had the core cast in it, I'd have probably still gone and seen it because it was a Scream film. But I wouldn't have. I don't know. Like, I think it would have been even worse than what it is now. So, where does this fit into your ranking? Oh, last, 100%.
And same with me. So for days since seeing it, I've been like,
I kind of want to pretend it doesn't exist.
I've been like, okay, so for me, it's 1, 2, 4, 3. That's always been my
same. Exactly
and
same.
5, I was like, oh, does it go before 3? And I'm like, no, because if I watch Scream 3 now, I have so much fun watching it. I have so much fun watching it. And even at the time when it came out and it was not as well received as it is, I still had fun watching it. Mm-hmm. I still had a lot of fun, and it still had the Wes Craven stamp on it.
But I mean, it just had it had fun moments, and it still has like the quotable things. And I mean, Gale's bangs. It's like there's still things that we talk about in pop culture because of that film.
Oh no, I'm just putting a pin in this now. I'm bored of talking about it. But for everyone at home, if you enjoy it, that's fine. You know what I mean? I'm really glad that this met or exceeded your expectations, and I'm very jealous of you for that. And when I say that I didn't like the film, I appreciate that it was made. As I said, I don't think it's the worst film in the world. There are bits where I think were fantastic.
Yeah, we still laughed at bits, and we still had a good time. It was not scary at all, which was a problem. But I'm very happy for you all. I'm very jealous of you all for a start. But I just want to point out, because the film is going to make it seem that way, I'm not one of those toxic fans. If you see the hype that I had going up to this film, like, I was basically one of those people from Scream 2 who were like running around the theatre.
In fact, in our showing, I actually, after Coffeegate, I looked at you, and there was somebody in a Ghostface outfit, sans the mask, and I had to point to you and be like, is she?
Well, that's it. We both wore Scream shirts. We both I said to you when I met you. I'm just going to put
a shout out on there. My Scream shirt was the fantastic one from Binge Designs, who have done some of my favourite Scream merch. So Amazing. Go and check out Binge Designs, please. They're incredible. Queer owned as well. So.
Oh. Even better. But yeah, 100%, I was the same as you. Like, we'd spoken about it so much, we were sharing theories with each other before we went to go see it. I said to you, I didn't really sleep all that much the night before because I was so hyped about seeing it.
Yeah, I was so excited. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was to my detriment, but unfortunately, yeah, it just did not deliver what I think it needed to.
And we went to see it in the perfect setting, in a dark, spooky, foggy night.
Exactly, yeah. It couldn't have been better.
The only thing that could have made it even more spookier is if one of us had been chased before we watched it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so for anyone joining us after the spoiler chat, hi, welcome back.
Spoilers are over for Scream 5. We won't mention it again
but
now.
I would very much, if you want to message us on social media and let us know your own thoughts about the latest entry into the Scream franchise, please do. Yeah. If you've got any theories as to what they might do with Scream 6, please let me know. I'd love to discuss it because, I'm not entirely finished, actually. I will go and see Scream 6 when it's made.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we've just said everything that we've said. We've been brave yet controversial in our opinions, but 100% will be there when the sequel drops.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, moving swiftly on, let's talk about the best entry into the Scream franchise, which is the original 1996 Wes Craven classic Scream. When we talk about pinnacles and game-changing horror and like just icons, this film to me is when I think of what I love about horror. This film has everything. It's not afraid to reference. It's got a fun cast of characters. It's got great performances, great writing, great moments. It's got some really dumb moments which actually work, and so before I get into like my whole soliloquy about it, what's your history with Scream? Like, can you remember the first time you watched it?
I think the first time I watched it, I'm sure it was like on like Channel 4, I think they used to do like series as a film. So like one Sunday evening there'd be Scream, and then the next Sunday there'd be Scream 2, and the next Sunday it'd be Scream 3. And I think that's how I watched it. When Scream 4 came out, that was when I was in college. So I know I was definitely aware of it by that point because I went to go see that. But I watched it on TV. I can remember it was a film I'd heard about a lot, like at school from friends, like as a film they watched at sleepovers, and like everyone always used to talk about the garage door scene, and everyone like used to talk about. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'd probably say I don't know if I watched Scary Movie before I watched Scream, because like the two, obviously, I know that Scream was initially supposed to be called Scary Movie, but the two are kind of synonymous to me because they did come out at a very similar time. They were obviously parodying, like Scream, I would say, would argue is a parody of the horror genre anyway, but then to get a parody of a parody in Scary Movie, it was a complete.
We will have to do an episode on Scary Movie because I think that's one of the greatest films of all time. Yeah, I will, and we'll talk about Brenda Meeks at length because what a character.
Honestly, the amount of times I just spout off Brenda Meeks quotes in my life is probably
in fact,
unhealthy.
we were doing it in the cinema. So.
For all y'all talkers up in here, it's time to keep it down right now.
But yeah, I suppose I kind of got into it maybe early teens. Like I was still too young to watch it, but it was horror in a nutshell for me. What about you? How did you?
So like most films we've talked about, I was introduced to Scream at quite a young age. Yeah. And a lot of it stems back to my nana working at a Blockbuster. But with this one, I remember it being one weekend, and I must have been about 8 years old. So me and my cousin Timmy were trying to choose a film to watch at the weekend. Growing up, he was always the one who should be like, oh, you should watch this, or you should read this, and he was a big horror nerd as well. He was like, oh, we're going to rent Scream this weekend. And I was like, me as a kid, I was like, is it scary? And he's like, no, it's really cool. And I was like, oh, okay. God, I didn't get very far into this film. The bit where Drew Barrymore looks up at the window and Ghostface turns around.
Yeah.
I screamed, pissed myself a little bit, and ran out of the room. And I was like, but because it scared me that much, like, because we had it because obviously with my nana working there, we had the movies for quite a long time. We weren't just a weekend thing. We were like platinum card members of Blockbuster because she was a manager.
Amazing.
But no, we had it. It was sitting in my nan's flat for like 2 weeks, and I remember I'd go up and I'd put it on, and I'd try and get past that bit, and I'd get a little bit further into it, and then I'd have to turn it off because I was too scared.
It's so funny hearing you say how much it scared you, because I can remember the first time I watched it with my mum, and I 100% think she did exactly the same as you. You know the bit when Drew Barrymore or Casey's looking back inside the house, and then you see the figure dart across.
Yeah.
She just pissed herself. She fully just went, and just, she was like, I need to.
So I got, and then I remember the bit that spurred me on to carry on was I got to the bit where you see Casey's body hanging from the tree.
Yeah.
And I was terrified, but I watched it through my fingers, and I was like, I'm going to carry on. I've got past this bit. It can't get any scarier than this.
Yeah.
And I made it all the way through, and I was like, oh my God, that was good. And I was at about 8 years old, and I was like, I remember watching it and thinking, I really like these people. Like, I really hope they do another one. And then, like, it had become a tradition then where me and my cousin would watch, like, the new Scream film. And then when Scream 4 came out, like, he rang me and he was like, oh, Scream 4 is going to be in cinema next week. Do you want to go see it together? Oh. I was like, yeah. So then, like, it became a thing. Unfortunately, we didn't see this one together because he's, like, married with too many kids now, so that was, and then because of that, and because it is such like a referential horror film, because it lists off a number of like films in it. Because
I mean, in the opening scene alone, you've got Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, like literally all of the good franchises are mentioned.
So I went and watched a load of them because of this, because they were mentioned. Like, I knew who, it's so weird to think that as kids, I knew who Freddy Krueger was, but it was at the point where Freddy had become, Freddy had just become a pop culture figure anyway.
I'm sure I actually dressed up as Freddy, Jason, and Ghostface for Halloween before I even watched the film. And then it was like such a shock to find out that I dressed up as like a kiddie murderer. Like,
but yeah, I remember because of that, I went and watched quite a lot after that, and then I was like hooked into horror. I remember, and I'm trying not to turn it into a Gale Weathers episode, but I remember being so in love with Gale. And I remember at one point my auntie Pauline was like, "Oh, he's got a little crush on Courtney Cox," and I was like, "Nope, no, I don't. No, I want to be Courtney. I don't like her in that way. She's just amazing." But I remember telling her as well, I was like, "No, I like Billy. I've had very good taste from a young age, and just knew that Billy was one of the sexiest things I have ever seen in my life." My God, do you know that bit where he sucks the corn syrup with his fingers? Good God!
Do you know? I thought we'd get further on talking about Scream before you mentioned that, but
God, I'm actually gonna have to fund myself.
God, you're looking a bit flushed there, Liam.
He's so hot.
To be fair, I'd argue that I think pretty much all of them are very hot. They're all a very they're a great cast to look at. I mean, they even talk about it now, don't they? About how much fun, like it was like a summer camp for them when they were making this film. So. I just, God, can you imagine being on the set?
Yeah, I love hearing the cast talking about this film, and I love hearing about their stories with Wes and how fun and he was to make films with. I love, and I found this out thanks to Dead Meat, but I found out that like Randy's little soliloquy and his iconic "Here are the rules to survive in a horror film" was his like third take, because the first take Wes was like, "Yeah, done," and
Jamie Kennedy,
good damn, I couldn't think of his name then, was like, no, I think I can give more, and Wes was like, no, and he was like, no, I can give more. And then he did 2 more takes, and Wes was like, never feel scared to ask a director to do more takes, because that was it.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
That was the thing. And I just loved that he was like, you know what, I'm just going to give him a shot. And then, like, look what happened. Like, we got one of the I was going to say there's not a scene in this that I don't like. I'm trying to think of a scene.
It's everything
that's
is
dead air.
so iconic. I mean, it was one of the first films as well for me to kind of notice that they say, "What if this was a scary movie?" or "What if this was?" And like,
because you always think that, like, even now, like, if I watch a zombie movie, I'm like, how has nobody watched a zombie movie before?
I know what you mean. But I think, the thing with this, the whole film, you're in on the joke, aren't you? And for Wes Craven to obviously kind of spearhead this thing, having created the iconic Freddy Krueger to have done like Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, like he was a master of horror already at this point. Like he could have well and truly just hung up his hat and just gone, no, I'm done now, and he'd have been fine. But I think it took a special kind of someone like him to make this film.
I feel like this harkens back. I feel like only Wes Craven could have done this. Mm-hmm. And many people tried to do this, and many people, because obviously this spawned there were so many copycats, or people I don't like to say copycats because I don't feel like anyone tried to copy this film. They tried to make like a spiritual successor.
A close comparison would be obviously I Know What You Did Last Summer, with Kevin Williamson also writing that, and you can see the difference. Obviously you've got
to me, the one that works better as like the one that tried to cash in on that is The Faculty. The Faculty, to me, is not as iconic as Scream, but like it saw what Scream did and thought, let's kind of like change the genre up a bit.
Yeah.
But I think that is incredible. But it's not a Faculty episode. It's a Scream episode.
Scream episode. But yeah.
I feel like the reason why this resonates with queer audiences especially is the fact is there are so many pop culture references, which is near enough how we live our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, it's so charged with homoeroticism. And yes, it doesn't specifically say that Stu and Billy were getting it on. If you can watch that film and not think anything was going in between them, I'm kind of like jealous of you, because you must be on some other different level playing to me. But I love that, and like there were two, even if they were two straight characters, they weren't afraid to be close with each other, and they weren't afraid to be intimate with each other. Like that bit where he's got his arms around his neck.
They fully drape over each other, don't they? It's and I mean that was something obviously that was picked up on in a Scary Movie. Like Hammer at Home, don't they? Like they are just fully gay with each other. But it's the characters. The characters have all these like layers. I mean, even Tatum, played by Rose McGowan, like brilliant in this film. Like some of the things like I noticed the last time I watched Scream, the way that she says like about Billy, like
he was destined to have a flaw. I knew he was too perfect.
You kind of think like that's not the thing you say when your best friend who goes out with him is right there. Yeah. So then you think, have they been sleeping together? It's like there's all these little, and I mean, again, obviously it's written by a gay man, so it kind of had this, these ideas behind it, didn't it?
It's Chucky for me. It's Chucky. It's got that gay person behind it, so of course it's going to be gold. And team up a gay man with Wes Craven, and you've just got something. And I think. Yeah, you are right that the characters are the reason why because we as gay people, we love to see a strong female character, and this film has it in abundance.
Absolutely,
and it's time. I've got to. Gail Weathers is in this film. Gail Weathers, the most iconic final girl, and gets overlooked when we're talking about final girls and scream queens. Gets overlooked all the time because everybody does focus on Sydney. And that's not a bad thing because Sydney is an incredible character. But Gail to me is like everything I would want to be as a character. Was a female character who at the time didn't fit what female characters were written like.
No.
Wasn't afraid to get down and dirty. Wasn't afraid to be the quote unquote bitch. Like
career-driven, powerful, ambitious,
powerful, headstrong, sensible, clever, really
and
clever.
Absolutely hilarious.
And hilarious. The one thing that always sticks out to me with Gail is the scene where it's between her and Sydney Sydney's like,
do you still think he's innocent? Your testimony put him away. It doesn't really matter what I think.
And has his story changed?
Not one word.
Cotton murdered my mother.
You're not so sure anymore, are you?
just that scene is such a small scene, but it's like a standout scene to me.
But the thing is yeah, it's like, it's so serious, and then I'm sure she ends that scene, doesn't she, with...
Jesus Christ. An innocent man on death row. A killer still on the loose. Kenny, tell me I'm dreaming.
You want to go live?
No. Not so fast. We don't have anything concrete.
This is huge. You can't just sit on it.
I know. That's why we need proof. If I'm right about this, I could save a man's life. Do you know what that could do for my book sales?
Oh my God.
It's incredible.
She is incredible. And the outfits, the hair, the lime green.
The power suits. Which, going quickly, harkening back to Scream 5 Cream quickly. The red power suit she wears. She does have a red power suit.
Phenomenal. But we're going to talk about this lime green one just for a moment because, oh my God, it's so good. Her wardrobe, incredible. The leather jackets she wears at the end when she's like, and her hair in it. Like, people talk about, like, the Rachel cut. Not to reference Friends too much because I don't like Friends.
Is this bitch for real?
Although, Monica is my favourite of the Friends. And it must be a Courtney Cox thing.
It's a Courtney Cox thing, 100%.
But no, like...
But what an absolute difference. I mean, that just shows as well, like, what a great actress she is. Because when you look at Monica, she is not a bitch at all. But when you look at Gale Weathers, she is the biggest bitch you'll ever meet.
And she is... But I think it's a credit. It's a credit to Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson to make this character could have easily have been a vapid, shallow bitch, but
and
she's
big
not.
Fodder for like the kills as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that was maybe why she stands out because, and even obviously Dewey as the cop, like these are characters that traditionally in horror films and slashers we're used to seeing get the chop, like these sideline characters, and for them to kind of form this kind of holy trinity almost with Sydney and take out the killers, it was unheard of, wasn't it?
And like Gail has some of the best lines.
Just the way she talks to Kenny just makes me absolutely
the way she
pissed.
talks to Kenny, I wish I was Kenny.
I wish I was Kenny.
When Kenny's dead and she's like, get the off my face.
Oh God, Kenny, I'm sorry, but get off my windshield!
It's when she could tell me to move my tub of lard ass any day, and I would move 100%.
In terms of we always think of the final girl as the one who's like invincible, clever, smart, knows what she's doing, has that vulnerable side to her. To me, that is Gail.
I mean, she goes on a similar journey to Sydney in that first film.
Yeah,
like with a lot of things.
I really love that they weren't afraid to say, "Oh yeah, we are referencing all these horror films, but why not change the game a little? And why not have two incredible women who are full on agency, fully."
They're against each other for obviously the majority, but then they realise how stupid that is in the grand scheme of things, and ultimately work together to then just take down like this picture of toxic masculinity almost. Because I mean, it is that repression, it's that frustration, isn't it? That's led to them turning into the killers that they are.
And Gail's motive throughout all of it is motivated by self-preservation, but also if you think about it, she's trying to prove that this man is innocent as well. She is
decent, isn't she? Really,
because she could have easily have turned around and created this huge smear campaign against Carton, and easily have written a book that says this is how he's guilty and what an evil person.
Yeah, so she cares about what actually is happening.
Oh
absolutely!
My God, what an incredible woman! And I've decided I really want a Gale Weathers tattoo, and that's going to be my next tattoo.
I think you should go as Gale Weathers for Halloween next year, to be honest. I think that's your... I'm happy to go as Kenny if you want to boss me around.
I'd love to do a night of 1,000 Gales.
A night of... Literally, next season of RuPaul's Drag Race, that night of 1,000 Gales, it's just power suit after power suit.
Yeah, but then, so obviously we've got the standout of Neve Campbell as Sydney Prescott, who always, if you look at like rankings of iconic horror movie characters, always ranks high for a very good fucking reason.
Absolutely.
Again, another incredible character who is so smart and clever and switched on. And I always feel like when you watch Scream and you watch that scene in the kitchen at the end, you don't realise how actually, if you put yourself in Sydney's shoes in that scene, how f***ing scary that would be. Like,
the revelation of everything.
Yeah.
Everything she finds out, her dad being like in peril, the fact that Billy, her boyfriend who she's literally just lost her virginity to, killed her mother and has been doing this the whole time. Like, I mean, but the fact is that you see it in her performance, and I mean that's a testament to her as an actress.
Oh my days,
she's incredible.
But the strength that Sydney then has to think, right, get it together. You need to survive. You need to get out of this. And then the final girl circuit in that film is fucking insane.
The bit where she just completely 180s, flips the tables,
my God, when she
wears the
turns
ghost mask
tide.
costume, calls them.
Are you alone in the house?
Bitch! You bitch! Where the f*** are you?
Not so fast. We're gonna play a little game. It's called
Guess who just called the police and reported you? Sorry, motherfucking ass!
And then Stu's like, my parents are gonna be so mad at me.
You hit me with a phone, dear.
I mean, the thing is, though, obviously, I think this is fairly obviously well known now, but Drew Barrymore was, of course, supposed to be playing Sidney Prescott, and I know she, in kind of more recent interviews and things, she's opened up and like said that she did speak with Wes about changing to the character of Casey and it being in the opening, because she was the face. She's the face of Scream, isn't she?
Yeah.
And it was obviously very psycho of them to kill off this character or actress who we thought was going to be there till the end. But I cannot, for the life of me, imagine anyone else but Neve Campbell playing Sidney Prescott. And I don't think it's like Jamie Lee Curtis and Laurie Strode. I mean, the interview that those two did together, was it for Vanity Fair like a couple of years back, and they just literally sit down and talk to each other about being basic. I mean, I'd argue to me they're my two favourite final girls.
Sydney and Laurie for me are like, and Gail, obviously,
and Gail,
like just up there, are on another echelon for me. There's something so magical about this film. Like, it's just such a strong cast. If you like, Matthew Lillard's performance in this should be ridiculous and should have ruined the movie if you think about it.
Oh, this is the greatest part. You're gonna love this. We got a surprise for you, Sydney. Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a Scream, baby. Hold on a sec. I'll be right back.
His performance at the end, when he just flips and he's just so over the top, and you think this shouldn't work, but it absolutely works.
It's
on
so
many levels, but it's also really believable when he's like crying, like my mum's going to be so mad, and you're like, oh shit, this is a teenage boy.
Exactly, yeah, 100%. You then just saw the boy underneath the madness of it all. I think because obviously him and Skeet Ulrich, they do a lot of like, I know more recently they've done a lot of like appearances together, and
it's so lovely.
I'm a sucker for like watching the like convention like interviews and stuff, and I know that Skeet Ulrich said that when he was playing Billy, it was only like partway into it that he kind of went up to Wes Craven and was like, is this a comedy? Because like everyone around me is playing this like it's a comedy. And he was like very, very serious, and I mean you can see it, like it's almost like he's annoyed with Matthew Lillard in some scenes because he is so serious, but it works because
it works so well.
Because if he was playing it as a comedy as well, and Matthew Lillard was, like, it would have been so ridiculous. But because he's so intensely like psychotic, and then Stu is just out there crazy. It just it's perfection. Like I wouldn't change a thing, quite honestly.
And he's so sorry to cheapen it, but he's so f***ing sexy. It's not even funny how sexy he is in this. Like, yes, he has greasy hair, but I don't mind. I could fix him. Like,
to
the salon.
So hot. Like, but what works as well is he's that kind of sexy where he's like. He's got such like, to look at him, he's got such a like good boy like beautiful angelic look about him, but there's just something behind his eyes.
It's his eyes. His eyes are so dark and like,
God,
I don't know, just scary. I think he wasn't cast because he supposedly looked like a young Johnny Depp, like
Johnny Depp,
Elm Street. So it was kind of that callback to that. And I mean, that's again, it's just genius, isn't it, on so many levels.
I'm not going to cheapen it by talking about how much of a crush I have on him too much, but I do want to. I want to take a moment to just talk about the opening scene because we were just touching on it. Good God, that's like the best opening scene of a horror film ever. Like,
I don't think it will ever be topped.
It's so scary and it's so heartbreaking when you think, like, there are moments where you, like, I feel like it takes more than one watching of it to really appreciate how fucking heartbreaking it is. But you know, when she's just so close to her parents.
But I mean, that, again, is this film, I've probably seen this film like 20 plus times, like, over the years, and it's a film that I still kind of will these characters to survive. Drew Barrymore, especially in that opening scene, I'm like, don't stop by the window, just run for your parents, please run for your parents.
Have you seen, do you watch Zach Cherry on YouTube?
I can't say I do, sorry.
Zach Cherry has like so many Scream videos because he's such a massive fan. He's literally done an animation of exactly where Stu and Billy are in that opening kill. It's impeccable. Absolutely, the amount of work and effort that's gone into that, and also it has broken down each film in a franchise to point out which killer is who.
I might have seen these videos, because I know that they kind of popped up again where it was like, who's who.
If you watch just the Billy and Stu opening scene one, it's a work of art in itself. But
it's just it's absolutely harrowing. And I mean, the thing is again, it's performance. Like, I think they're the sorts of scenes, you know, as a filmmaker myself, you know, whenever I'm working with someone, I point people in the direction of some scenes. It's usually either like, I don't know, the opening of Scream, or I don't know, I love the Evil Dead remake. I think
oh my God,
Mia in that is fantastic, phenomenal. And I mean, I think that's what bothers me about how overlooked horror is, because that performance is, in my eyes, it could easily win an Oscar, because it's insane. It's insanely good.
Like, the only things it really horror ever gets like a looking for is usually like the score or
elevated horror, the Babadook.
But like, if we look at like, was it the new Candyman film?
I think that's been long listed, hasn't it?
Nominated for long listed for its score only, and I think like, I'm not saying it should win like Best Picture because I don't think it's Best Picture, but there's some moments in that, like all the shadow puppet stuff, and yes, the score does deserve to be recognised, but like, if you look at films like this, and then if you look at performances like Jamie Lee Curtis in the most recent Halloween, like in Halloween 2018, if that wasn't a horror film, that'd be an Oscar-winning.
Toni Collette in Hereditary. Jesus Christ.
Toni Collette in Hereditary. Oh my days. That speech. I am your mother.
Peter Nyong'o in Us. Like, it's just.
Peter Nyong'o in Us. The fact that she wasn't awarded any sort of, like, just every single award there is available for that.
Honestly, it boils my blood. It boils my blood.
Have you seen the behind-the-scenes stuff for that when she's still in character? Oh,
it's
what a performance!
It's insane. And I mean, the thing is like, I do think like these actors go through so much to bring something to the screen. If they do it properly and it is done properly, like, you know that they've had to go to a place that obviously no one hopefully ever has to go and experience these things. Like, I mean, Drew Barrymore didn't know how it would feel to be kind of like stalked and all of that, but like made it feel so believable and pulled you in. And for that to be the opening scene where you've got so little character development, but you're already gunning for this girl so much. It's a testament to the writing, the performance, the direction, everything.
I always, like, when I'm watching the opening scene as well, I'm always thinking of the what ifs. Like, what if she did answer correctly? You know what I mean? Like, they still would have found a way to have been.
I always wanted to take the popcorn off. Always.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I
Also,
always want her to not stop, like, for her boyfriend, not stop by, like, when she sees her parents, like, coming out the car, like, it just...
Run, bitch! Run!
That final shot of her swinging from the tree. Oh, and it's the bit that always gets me is the fact is you can see the steam coming off her guts. Always just like
it's just details.
It's
just
incredible.
Details, isn't it? It is incredible.
But when, like, for all the flaws that, like, if you think of it on paper, a film that constantly references other horror films and has a cameo in it by the director dressed as his iconic character called Fred. Like, you'd think, oh, this is straight up a comedy film, it's going to be stupid, but it hits the mark every single time. And I can't get bored of this film. I could watch this film and then stick it on straight away and watch it again, and I won't get bored.
It's like you almost notice, like, new bits. And I will say, I don't know if, because obviously I watched it fairly young as well, same as you. I really didn't see the comedy in it at all when I was younger, because I think it did just scare me so much. Like, I didn't get, like, what it was playing for. But last year it was the 25th anniversary, wasn't it, of Scream. Me and my other half, we went to go and see it at, like, an old cinema here in Nottingham, and it was packed out. And I mean, this was, like, at a time when people were probably still very cautious of going to the cinema, but it was packed. And when I tell you the audience experience, like, the amount of laughter, like, Dewey would get, and the, like, people were clapping and cheering when Wes appeared, and it was just like, this film is so special to so many people, and quite rightfully so. I mean, it completely changed the genre. We were in this stale period of endless sequels of like characters we did initially love, but we'd grown to hate. Like,
everyone was
a
going
return
to
form. Yeah, it was definitely a return to form. And I don't know, when I think of horror, it's hard for me not to think of that image of Ghostface and the knife, like the hunting knife, the robe, and I mean, again, like, we talk about Michael Myers having, like, a great mask and Freddy having a great look, and for in the 90s for us to kind of get that, and I mean, the only thing I can think of, like, since that's maybe become an icon is, like, the puppet in Saw, like Billy, like, but it's still not to that, like, level. No, and I'm afraid we won't get it again.
I feel like it would be very hard to get it again. It's taken me a while to get into Dead by Daylight. Really taken me a while, because for a horror fan,
am I a Nicki fan? Pull up in the Sri Lanka. What?
Horror games to me do not get on. They scare me so much. And anyone who ever has the unfortunate experience of watching me or being in a room while I'm playing a horror game just would hate every minute, because I scream and I'm like Brenda.
Oh, I am scared.
Like, screaming. Because Ghostface is in that, and it was the first character I bought for it, because I was like, this is my slasher. I've got to be that person.
Yeah.
Oh God, in that game is terrifying as well. Like, I think
I can remember seeing the promo trailer for that, you know, when they were obviously releasing the pack. And I'm sure it's like Ghostface, like at a hardware store, buying, like, hunting knives and tape and stuff, and then he ends up killing the cashier. I thought it was, it's but that's what I mean. It's like these characters then go on to have, like, a life of their own, don't they? And it is kind of, I do find it hilarious, and I suppose obviously that's where then the Stab films come into play in the Scream series, is that Scream has become a part of the pop culture that it was so earnestly, like, referencing in that first film. So it's kind of bizarre, like, and the whole thing is, like, it shouldn't work, but it does.
No.
And the fact that, like, I don't know, the style of the film and everything, like, the teens always, especially Tatum, she looks like she's straight out of the 60s, and I know that, like, I don't know, the 90s did have, like, a big 60s resurgence, but I don't know, she's never wearing a bra, which is hilarious.
Tatum's whole wardrobe I'm so jealous of. Like, that little cheeky nod to Nightmare on Elm Street, and with the crop top that she wears, and then just that green top she wears when her nips are fully, like... I love Tatum so much. But I will say, her death scene is one of the most iconic of any horror film.
Absolutely.
to be that small that you could fit through a cat flap.
Well, this is it. I'm sure, like they said, didn't they, when they were filming it, the problem is that she was actually fitting through and she was getting through, so they had to then make it look like she couldn't get through.
But no, you look at her, and if you're watching that film, you're like, oh yeah, she's fully getting through there. Like, what's stopping her now?
Absolutely.
My favourite bit of costuming that isn't related to Gail in this is Sydney's little bedtime wear that she wears at the beginning, because when you first meet Sydney, she's just wearing this little like
so virginal. They're like, she is a virgin.
Virginal bedgown thing. But Sydney's transformation when she's like, because she makes references to films a lot, and she's like, oh, would you be happy with a PG-13 relationship?
Yeah, that's after Billy snuck in and said he's watched The Exorcist and thought of her.
I know. If a man said that, then again, there's only one man.
I was going to say, you wouldn't kick him out of bed, so don't.
But that line at the end where she's like, I think it should be a good porno, and I'm like, oh, you nasty bitch, I love you so much. But
she's been a dirty dog all this time. She goes
on such an incredible journey in that, and I love it. And there's like, you said before, the thing that this film does really well is on subsequent rewatches of it, you'll notice small bits. Like, I never noticed that the clothes that the dad wears and the only scene that you see him in are exactly the same clothes he wears in the big reveal at the end when he's in the cupboard, which shows that Billy was there that night to like cover up the fact that Stu was downstairs
probably kidnapping the dad.
You clever
it's insanely clever. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely.
And that's one thing that does upset me nowadays, is like, because with all the talk about elevated horror and all this, like, is it's clever in such a different way, whereas this was clever in the things that the more times you rewatch it, you'll notice so much more, and I feel like you appreciate it more the more you watch it as well, because as I said, the first time I watched it, I just watched it as a pure, oh god, this film's terrifying.
For a film to be that thorough and for the people behind it to be that dedicated to, do you know what I mean? Like thinking of absolutely every single decision, so that, we as the fans, because we are going to scrutinise, and like you said, like find new things every time you watch it. There's so many like videos and articles and things about Easter eggs and things that you can find out, like, you know, upon subsequent viewings. But for that to be in the 90s, like, where, I don't know, like message boards weren't really much of a thing, and do you know what I mean? Like, film fans couldn't get together that easily, but it still have that level of dedication it's phenomenal. And one thing I will say is, obviously there's been a very important person we've not really mentioned at all for any of the Scream films, and I don't think it would be a Scream film without them, and that's Roger L. Jackson, who is the voice of Ghostface.
Hello? Yes?
Who is this?
Quite a sexy voice as well. Like, it is quite a charismatic.
It just sends shivers down your spine, though, doesn't it? Like, you know, as soon as I hear it, like on anything, you immediately know what it is.
Oh, like, you just that line.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
I want to know who I'm talking to.
Like, that is, oh my god, that's horrible.
The writing in that opening sequence is just, I can't. Like, I don't think I've ever had such admiration for a film.
The way he says Blondie. Creeps me out so much. Like, and then, like, the best thing now is, like, because a lot of people do point out, like, oh, I'd survive Scream because I never pick up the phone. Okay, stop being a dickhead.
You would.
You would. Like, even though I don't answer to a private number, but like if I see a number I don't recognise, but hello. But no, I just hate all the naysayers who are like, oh, it's not believable, and all
I think those naysayers exist though because of the likes of Scream, because it did break down horror and its conventions, and it said, look, this is the formula, this is how you survive. So then in many ways it then created this breed of fan who was like, I'd get out of there, I'd do that. You know, like before then, I don't feel like there was much in the way of film theory and conversation on those archetypes and those like expectations. It just changed the game.
The rules in that as well, like for for a horror creator and somebody whose career has been like made in horror, for them to be able to pick out those tropes and make that whole speech is incredible. I love that.
Randy's monologue.
It's so good. And the fact that Halloween is just playing while it's all happening, it's just it just makes it even better. It was like, oh god, I love it. Randy as a character as well is so lovable. You just can't not hate Randy.
Yeah.
Can't not love Randy. You can't hate Randy, basically. If you hate Randy, you're wrong.
You're part of that toxic fandom.
Yeah. Oh no, he's just so incredible because he's the audience's guide.
He's the horror fan. He is the horror fan, isn't he? He's the person in the audience who gets the jokes, who everything that was set up. Because I don't know, it's like you can very easily watch that film in like a really passive way. Yeah. And just think, oh, it's just another horror film, and not think it's that intelligent, because you could watch it like that, or you could be like, yeah, I recognise that this is a nod to this, and this is. Do you know what I mean? So he's that link. He's that person who's saying you are allowed to have a bit of fun with this, really.
Yeah, and the part at the end where we've obviously had the big reveal.
Pause for the big reveal
of everything, and we've got that stunning chase through the house and the kitchen scene and Sydney being at. But one of my favourite bits, the gunshot at the end. I don't know what it is. It just completely freaks me out, because when I remember in later rewatches of it, I was thinking, oh, here comes that, because the bit that I never used to like was when she was like, oh, they always come back for one final scare. Bang. And I always thought that was a bit too on the nose. Now that's one of my favourite parts.
Yeah.
It's what makes, because it became such a staple then throughout the franchise that it's really good. I'm really trying not to talk too much about 2, 3, and 4, because I don't. They all, to me, deserve their own episode, because.
Yeah, I mean, this laid the groundwork, and then obviously it's turned into an absolutely killer franchise, hasn't it now? I mean, we've got 5 movies now. They struck gold. I think all the stars aligned with Scream in '96. I don't think we will ever get a film that is kind of like that and works in such a good way. The only thing I can kind of think as a bit of a comparison, which I enjoyed, was Cabin in the Woods, in the way that it was that meta, and that was taking a different subgenre and being really like
Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of like a spiritual successor to Scream.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
I do love that film, and I can see where it was really. It feels like it's very inspired, but it's not inspired in the way that all the films that were made subsequent to Scream coming out that were obviously very inspired. Yeah. Oh, Urban Legend.
I will say I do
love
enjoy
Urban Legend. Rebecca Gayheart, and that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really like her. Oh, I'm going to watch Urban Legend tonight. Yeah, but then when Cabin in the Woods came out, because I remember I went to see that because it was before I knew all the shit with Joss Whedon, because I used to be a huge Joss Whedon fan. One day we'll have an episode that just talks about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because that is my favourite TV show of all time.
Literally started rewatching it again. Yeah. This is probably the 10th time.
It's everything. Again, it works because it's very much like Scream, that it's very aware.
I think as well, though, the big thing about all of these, the way that we're talking about them now, it's the nostalgia of it all, isn't it? And I mean, I know a lot of people obviously talk about the 80s being the golden age of horror and the slashers, and the golden age for a lot of things, music, the lot. But the 90s did offer us some great things as well. And I mean, obviously that was for me and you where we grew up. That was where we were getting our pop culture references, and where everything started. So yeah, I don't think they'll ever top Scream.
Can't get over how much I love this film. Oh, yeah, beautiful. But I'm gonna come back around. I'm gonna circle all the way back round to Gale. I feel like this is one of the films where I've been expecting a remake of it for a while, not a requel. I was expecting a remake of Scream at some point. I know we kind of got it with the TV show, but I was expecting a full-on remake.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, well, there's only one person who could play Gail Weathers in that, and that would be Kelly Rowland, obviously.
Freddie!
She's not afraid to have a go at the killer.
And let's talk about the butter knives. What is with the butter knives?
If she'd have called Billy and Stu a she wouldn't have been wrong in her assumption with that. So yeah, I definitely. And then we've got like the Wes Craven of it all,
Freddie!
by casting Kelly Rowland as the new Gail Weathers. I feel like Scream needs Kelly Rowland in there, but as her, like, to make it really like on the nose, to bring her character back from Freddy versus Jason, have her in there, or they could just be watching that scene over and over again.
Yeah. Well, she could play Kelly Rowland, watching her like Jennifer Tilly in Chucky.
Yes.
That's if you're going to go meta with it, do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my days. Yeah, because Scream. I'm sorry to bring. Scream 4. Just thinking of it now. Sorry, the word it reminded me that we're a queer podcast.
I gay.
Scream 4 introduced a new rule saying that the only way to survive a horror film is to be gay. Mm-hmm. Please show me a horror film where that happens to be the rule, because we're normally the ones who get bumped off or with a killer.
Yeah, I was going to say it was usually the monstrous queer presence, wasn't it? Yeah. Or you were killed for
just
sinning.
Like in the first Scream film where Billy and Stu are the monstrous queer presence, and I know exactly what it is. It's Stu fancies Billy. Billy knows that and is playing on it.
Yeah.
But isn't into Stu at all. And a lot of queer people will resonate with that, because we've all had that one person, like that one friend who we're really into, but you know that they're straight or they'll just never be into us.
Just unavailable, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. My heart, even though he's a psychopath, my heart kind of bleeds for Stu. It really does. It is Matthew Lillard's performance, when he becomes a complete child. I love it so much. Just when he's on that phone. Oh, yeah.
Scream.
I think that comes to a nice end.
Screamed out.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, I wanted to jump into the recommendations, and I'm gonna talk about one first, which, surprise, surprise, is a book. Then I really want to get into one that we've both decided needs to be,
definitely,
the recommendation of the month.
Yeah.
So I've so far, I was going to say, I'm on 4 books this month already. One of them I've just started, and apparently it's very much like Scream, that it references a lot of horror films. Is called My Heart is a Chainsaw, but that's not my recommendation unless it's really good.
Okay.
So I have another recommendation that I don't want to talk about too much, because people might hear more about it at some other point.
Well, I was going to say, I think this might be a nice time to introduce that we're going to be starting on the Super Freak Media socials, particularly I think it's going to be Instagram more than anything, the Super Freak Media Book Club, or the Super Freak Book Club, as we've called it, which is going to be run by you, the other Liam. So we're going to be posting kind of like reviews, reasons for recommendations on horror or horror adjacent like books. They're not necessarily all going to be like queer based, but there will be. They're all going to
be horror.
They are all going to fall, in the kind of the remit of horror in general. So if you like listening to this bit of the podcast and where we kind of talk about, Liam talks about books that he's read, then you can probably find that you'll get some more recommendations as well coming your way, starting in February, but more details coming soon.
Yeah, so by the time this has been... Oh, no, it wouldn't. I've completely forgot what month we're in. Yeah, okay. So this month's recommendation by me, the book, is a book called Pretty Savage by T.A. Kunz.
Use your mouth.
It has the most incredible cover, which, when people don't judge a book by its cover.
Judge this book by its cover.
Yeah, judge this book by its cover, because it's so sick. I don't know if you can see, but look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
For the viewers at home, it's very neon. Go Google it. It's very nice.
It's incredible. It's so good. I was reading something about you need to read these queer horror novels, and I was like, oh, okay. And I saw this one and I was like, oh, that's a nice cover. And the person on TikTok who was describing it said it's like Scream with a big queer cast, and I was like, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's not quite there. It's great, don't get me wrong, it's great, but it's no Scream, but it's still got that premise of it's a slasher that follows these teenagers. There's a big party scene, so it kind of follows the formula. It does have a great queer cast. It's just really fun. Like, it's not, you don't have to think too much about this book to to enjoy it. It'd make a great film or TV show as well. The end of it gets a little bit convoluted, but I feel like it could be tidied up quite nicely. You can really tell that the author of it is just a huge horror fan. There are some great chase sequences that happen in this, and there's some great moments. And
do you know, I've never read a horror book that's been a slasher and had those sequences in. So I don't know how it'd read. I don't know how I'd feel reading it. But...
yeah, it's really fun. And there are some bits that kind of lost me, but because it references a lot of Gen Z things, and I'm just oh, okay, yeah. But the killer wears a neon mask in this, and the way that they describe it sounds so sick. I'd love to see it. So yeah, that's Pretty Savage by T.A. Kunz. So what's your... do you have one other than the one that we'll both talk about?
No, to be fair, that I kind of penned that down as going to be the thing that I'd kind of... I'd talk about. The only other thing that I'd possibly say, which I know again we've both kind of appreciated, I've been listening to today, is The Weeknd's new album. I'm really enjoying.
Yes, gorgeous.
Again, I find his kind of work always lends itself well to kind of horror. His music videos usually have a bit of a horrific element to them, and I know the visuals we've got so far for this album have been quite creepy.
There's one track on that album. It's called "Take My Breath." Oh my god, it's so sick. I really love that disco is being a huge influence on modern music at the moment, and we're getting some absolutely incredible disco inspired songs and albums at the moment, and this album is one of those. I've always loved what The Weeknd's put out. A lot of 80s inspired music, which again is one of the best
just
decades
phenomenal
music. But and he's
other than that, I've been listening to him, but then we both kind of stumbled. You messaged me and I wasn't going to mention it until we won the podcast, but of course it's been a bit longer. But we've both been really, really into a Showtime series called Yellow Jackets.
Yes!
Which I think, quite honestly, has taken the world by storm. I'm seeing it everywhere. Oh my god, it's how you do a TV show.
Absolutely phenomenal. If I hadn't have seen the trailer before I read the description, the trailer itself, I remember it was around Christmas time. We were watching, me and Reese were watching something, and a trailer came up for this, and I was like, oh well, that looks incredible.
Yeah.
And Christina Ricci is in it, so I'll watch that. But then I saw the rest of the cast, and I was like,
it's just shit. So many talented people involved in this show.
The finale aired last night in the US. It's not aired in the UK. Technically, it doesn't air in the UK till Thursday, but I could not wait until Thursday to watch it. What a show! That is how you do modern. That's how you do modern horror.
Absolutely. That's it. The thing is the show itself, I don't think is necessarily, pushed as a horror series. It's horrific in many ways. It's not like it isn't a straight up slasher. The reason we've also mentioned it as well is there is a tenuous link to the actress who's one of the stars of Yellow Jackets, Jasmine Savoy Brown. She's also played Mindy Meeks
incredible
in 5 Cream in Scream 5. Yeah, she stands out in both of them. She's phenomenal.
She really does.
You've got I mean, ultimately, the story revolves. This isn't giving anything away because I don't want to spoil this for you because you should watch it.
You need to watch this.
The premise is that there's a young high school football team who are going to like a national competition, and this is set in the 90s. So it's got that really, really nice like nostalgia flair to it. When we're in
with
these kind of
an incredible soundtrack as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Essentially, they're on a plane to go to this competition, and the plane crashes, and then you follow these girls surviving in the wilderness, but then you also get to see these girls who've survived the ordeal when they're like now women and where they are in their lives. And I don't know, the way that this obviously life-changing thing has completely changed who they are as people. But I think the whole series, you're kind of trying to guess who's still alive, who hasn't made it, what's happened. You don't know if there is something kind of supernatural or weird going on, or whether or not it's kind of there's so many threads that are like, and so many questions that are set up throughout this thing, and it just keeps you guessing. It's brilliant.
The cast is there's not a weak cast member in this.
No,
they're all
not
as good as each other.
And the thing is I feel like I could look at each of them and know something about them. I'd care about them. Like I don't know. Obviously, this isn't a spoiler, but things do happen to some of these characters, and it's horrible to see and it's horrific. But the reason it is horrific is because you have come to love these characters and you want them so badly to survive.
The finale aired last night. The series does end on a cliffhanger. Luckily, though, it has been confirmed that there is a second series coming. Thank God. I think
there needs to be. There's so many questions.
To be one of the greatest shows that's been around, and I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because I've been burned in the past by a show having a great first series, but I feel like there's not been a bit of dead air at all in this first series. That the second series can only get much better. And I read an interview earlier with the showrunners, and they were talking about like, a lot of the older characters have been like, when we first thought about this show 4 years ago, we dreamcast it, and we were like, if we could have anyone playing these characters, and we got these people to play these characters. And they were like, and there's somebody in season 2, and we've had like a dream cast for them, and I need to know who it is. Do you know who I need in this show? I need SMG in it. I need Sarah Michelle Gellar in here.
Do you know, if that happened, I'd lose my shit completely. But the thing that gets me as well is the coherence between the two performances, because I mean the thing is the casting is so good that you forget that these girls aren't the younger versions of the women that we're watching. Like, it is that good. It is that good. It's insane. The writing is great. Every character is great. Like, it's just
and I just
TV.
Need to take a moment. Christina Ricci in this. And
this is the thing, is my mum didn't even recognise it was her. No. Because the transformation is unreal. And like, she's so good.
The girl who plays younger her, just Misty. Misty as a character is just actually, I can't say that she's like the standout because they're all just as good as each other. And Juliette Lewis's performance in this as well.
She is.
Oh my days!
Incredible, insane.
Just the whole cast.
Anything she's
cast
in
is so talented. I just can't get over that they managed to secure so much talent in this, and for everyone to be just as good as each other. I will say that one of my favourite performances is by Tawny Cypress. So much nuance, and gets to play a queer character as well, which is just even better. This show has everything. It
literally
characters,
does. It really does.
A really sexy man. Two sexy men actually. There's one in the modern day, and then there's the coach. The coach is really hot.
Coach is I'm happy with the coach.
That man could do unspeakable things. Anyway, everybody go out. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend watching Yellow Jackets. If you're in the UK, it's on Now TV/Sky. Just watch it. Get a free trial or something and just watch it in one day.
It's definitely going to be like you said, it's going to be one of those shows that I think becomes like an event show.
Now, I did tease earlier a feature-length real-life horror story this month.
I'm excited for this. I've been looking forward to this since you told me that you'd got a long one. And then you told me about the story. And the best thing about it is, I'm not going to give anything away. Just when you think you've reached, like, you know, the end of this story, it just keeps giving more. And I just want to... The thing is, as well, what gets me as well, before you start, is the fact that, I think I said this before, every episode, you somehow seem to find a way to shock me. And I know it's not you directly, it's the viewers who are submitting their stories to us. But I don't know I don't know how it just keeps escalating. But I just want to say, because this person has happily said, you know what, give me the shout out. So a massive shout out to Michael Jim Notter on Twitter. An incredible person. I love you the whole timeline. It brings me so much joy. But this one story is absolutely incredible. I really want to read what the title of this story is, but it just gives it away. And maybe give us the title at the end. Give us the title at the end. But thank you, Michael, for this. I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna relax and enjoy this one. So take it away. If I didn't have witnesses, nobody would believe that this genuinely happened, and none of what I'm about to tell you is a lie. It's that extravagant. The night began like the majority of my university nights, as laying on a settee downstairs watching Friends on our big screen TV, minding my own business, as Steph, one of my best friends who lived at the other end of the 14-person house. Our house was a care home converted into student accommodation. I'm still certain that place was haunted. If you haven't already noticed, I can go off on a tangent very easily. Apologies. Steph came downstairs with a certain look on her face, one that I had seen too many times, one that I knew all too well. The same look Regina George gives to Katie Heron when she tells her to get in the car because they're going shopping. Except this time, it was put Sean Paul on, we're going out. I don't take too much persuading to get drunk, so I got up off the settee and ran upstairs to my bedroom to quickly shower and get changed. Steph did the same. She was the quickest girl in the world when it came to getting ready, so we were both showered and ready to go out very fast, and in town within an hour of her asking me to accompany her to get rat-arsed. The events of this night were not all that memorable, if I'm honest. It's what happened at the end of the night in the infamous Blackpool nightclub Flamingos, or Mingos as it's known to the locals. I don't really remember what happened to Steph that night, and I'm not all that certain she does either. I was on my own in Mingo's smoking area, which is downstairs and around the side of the club. There was a guy there who smiled at me. Just to interject, back in those days when a boy smiled at me, my mind said, offer him a blowjob, which many times I did. I went over and asked for a lighter, and probably a cigarette too. We got talking when the bouncer rudely asked everyone to make a move because the bar was closing. So I looked at him and offered my place because it was closer, and to my surprise, he said yes. Remember the opening scene in Titanic when Rose is walking up the ramp onto the ship, and old Rose, who's doing the voiceover, says,
on the inside, I was screaming.
Well, exactly that. Off we went, and it was hardly a stone's throw away to my house from town, literally a 5-minute walk. But during that time, one of my friends, Kerry, who was on the musical theatre course, didn't live far away, rang me. I'm locked out, can I stay at yours? Great. I had to pause for thought. Yes, of course you can, but I've brought someone back, so you'll have to sleep on the settee. She was fine with that compromise, although I hadn't specified which settee. I had a settee in my room, which she tucked herself up on. I covered her over with a blanket and thought, F it, she knows what she's got herself into. Just this moment, realised that I do not know this bloke's name, so let's call him Steve. So Steve and I got down to business, and we had a great time, and there was orgasms galore, and off to sleep I went. How wrong was I? After what felt like mere second sleep time, I was wakened by a still drunk Steph pushing me, screaming with laughter, did you pull last night? Well guys, yes I had, so I was expecting nothing short of a standing ovation, and applause at least. But what came out of her mouth, I thought was a joke at first. He shat on the landing. Well, I joined Steph in the fit of drunken laughter. This was one of the funniest moments of my whole life. The rest of the sober household who were needing to go to work did not find it all that amusing. We were alone on that one. Jane, who lived in one of the rooms opposite the landing, covered in excrement, had said he tried to get into my room and he was completely naked and started to piss all over the floor. Well, I didn't really know what to say, and I'm ashamed to say at the time, too drunk to care. There was a f***ing turd on the floor. We have more important things to worry about, Jane. Pipe down. Upon further inspection, he had indeed shat all over the landing, but wait, it gets worse. It was torn apart and thrown to different parts of the very long landing. The ground was also soggy, which made us realise poor Jane was right. He had indeed evacuated his bladder on the carpet.
Oh.
We woke Carrie up and she found it just as hilarious, so we looked around my room and there was a bundle on my floor next to my bed were his jeans and his shirt and his underwear. He was nowhere in the 14-person house to be seen. None of my clothes were missing. He was walking around Blackpool naked.
Oh.
So Steph and I were trying to come to terms with what had happened because, just to reiterate, a man shat on my landing. So we went back into my room, which was a safe poo-free zone, if you will. Steph then noticed that Steve's phone and keys were on my bedside table. I took this as initiative to go through the wallet to find his name and also pocket the £40. He shat on my landing. He owed me. Out of nowhere, the phone started to ring and I went to answer. Steph grabbed it and answered, giving the caller 7 shades of shit down the phone. Pun absolutely intended. I took the phone off it and asked the bloke on the other end who he was. He as if this had happened before, as if this had put me at ease. Has he shat on other people's landings? I no longer felt as special. He had confirmed that he was with Steve and he needed to come and collect his belongings, so we organised to meet at the front door of my house in 20 minutes or so. By this time, we had all gathered in my bedroom, eagerly waiting his arrival. Me in my drunken state decided I needed to be sassy and a bit rude. After all, he did shit all over my carpets. A car pulled up. This was it. I took Jane with me for moral support. We went with his possessions in hand. This middle-aged gentleman, who assumed was his dad, got out of the car to greet myself and Jane. As I handed over his belongings, I turned sassy and a touch cocky with my words. And who are you, then? There was a pause. And just when you think the story can't get any worse, and it already is, I'm his husband. My first thought was, wow, what an age gap. Not what I should have thought, which are feelings of regret and shame. I just stared at him, mouth open. I'm so sorry you never mentioned a partner of any kind. He then said, it's okay, it's not the first time. Excuse me? What, not the first time? Has he cheated on you before or shat on other strangers' carpets? There's not enough clarity here. I didn't think I had the audacity to talk because just mere hours ago I'd put my in his husband's, so I just kept my mouth shut and handed over his belongings. I apologised again and left it at that, mortified. Just as I was turning my back, he asked me to send him my bank details so he could send me money to clean the carpet. Well, I wasn't going to decline, so away the text went with my sort code and account number. By this time, the sober members of the house, bar Jane, had left to go to work, leaving myself, Steph, Kerry and Jane with the mess upstairs. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Myself and Kerry stuck tampons up our nose to stop the foul stench entering our nostrils and got to work. Who needs a professional carpet cleaner when there are drunk students to deal with the mess? All this time, Steph was sat on the stairs, still crying with laughter in intervals. She then reminded me about the money I was offered, so I checked my online banking app to find that my balance was £150. Does this now mean I'm a prostitute? Well, I say well deserved. Not forgetting the money I took out of his pocket earlier that morning, Steph had told me to give it to Jane since he tried to get into her bedroom and I suppose she deserved it. Never told her about the transfer of funds to my account, so if you're reading this, Jane, sorry. I had a healthy bank balance for the first time in a long time, so I got myself ready, went to town to get some lunch and a few bits. I worked in the local Build-A-Bear workshop, so while I was in town I popped in to educate my workmate on last night's events. But wait! There's more! So a few weeks had passed since the most dramatic and elaborate event of my entire existence, and I had work. Now, one part of the job at Build-A-Bear was to stand in front of the shop and usher people in to try and get passers-by to come into the shop. I loved doing it. There I was at the front of the shop doing my thing, and opposite the shop was an EE phone store. And who was there? A staff member at EE? Steve. Well, I just stood in shock, shouted for my manager and whispered to her, "It's him! That's the Pooh Man!" He noticed we were all looking, and I never saw him at work again. Maybe the poor bloke changed jobs out of embarrassment? I wouldn't know. Well then, guys, there you have it. I wouldn't expect anything to top this post ever again, as this was the best of the best. I just couldn't wait to share it with you. Till next time, see ya.
Oh, that was such a lovely story.
What a story. Shat on his landing. There you have it, folks.
And he worked at EA. Wow.
But thank you so much, Michael, because that story really brought me so much joy. I hope I did it justice. It's absolutely incredible. I loved every single second of it. Thank you so much. There has been more sent in, and I will save those for future episodes. But if you please do not stop messaging me these stories. If
Liam loves them, so please keep sending them to Liam.
Any stories? And they don't have to necessarily... Look, this one didn't happen on Grindr, so they could happen anywhere. They could happen to any single one of you, so please... please send them in. I love them. I love reading them so much. I love being gay. I just love being gay. It's incredible.
Gay rights. For goodness sake. But
wow. That about brings us to a wrap on this month's episode.
This has been a long episode, and I am very sorry to everyone, because it has been a long one, but it's been a good one. It's been a scream, baby.
Hey.
There we go. But no, it's always a joy to get together and hear hear about people shitting on Londons. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Next month is a very special month. It is LGBT plus History Month, as well as Women in Horror Month. So, on that note, next month we will be doing an episode a bit out of our usual norm. We won't be discussing any film in particular. Next month we will be discussing Scream Queens. We'll be discussing all the fantabulous and amazing women in horror. I've already started to think of 1,000,001 things that I want to say about quite a lot of them, so I'm really excited.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. It'll be a good episode. It'll be we love women in horror anyway, so it'll be nice to get together and talk about that. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for listening to this episode. We'd love, like we said, to know what you think of the new Scream film, and if you obviously agree with our thoughts on the original Scream and how much we love it. Until next month, I'll let you sign us out, because I seem to just F it up every single bloody month.
I always change the wording of it.
You do. I have noticed that.
Just going to be. I don't mind. It's just going to be a variation each month. But yeah, until next time, remember that closets were not made for people. They were made for
monsters and babysitter killers.
Thank you.
There we go. We did it. Teamwork. Yay. Goodbye now.
Bye.
Podcast on the Super Freak Media Podcast Network. To show your support, be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And you can find us on social media in the links in the description of this episode. Thank you for listening.